The ancient world was shaped by four great river civilizations, each thriving along the banks of mighty rivers that provided sustenance and opportunities for growth. Among them were Mesopotamia, along the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus Valley civilization by its namesake river, and the Chinese civilization on the Yellow River. Yet, only one of these ancient civilizations endured for an astonishing 3,000 years, and that was Egypt, flourishing along the Nile. What set Egypt apart? What allowed it to outlast nearly every other civilization of the ancient world? To answer these questions, we must journey through Egypt's rich history, from the first settlers by the Nile's fertile banks to the alliances formed with Rome by Cleopatra. The Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization, was a land where human society first began to take shape. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers provided the life, giving water necessary for agriculture, allowing cities like Ur and Babylon to emerge. Mesopotamians developed early writing systems, legal codes, and monumental architecture, setting a precedent for civilizations to come. In the Indus Valley, the Harappan civilization rose along the banks of the Indus River, known for its advanced urban planning, including grid-like city layouts and sophisticated drainage systems. The civilization's decline remains a mystery, yet its legacy is evident in the remnants of cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. Meanwhile, the Yellow River, known as China's sorrow due to its devastating floods, was the cradle of Chinese civilization. The early Chinese developed agriculture, metallurgy, and writing, laying the foundations for a culture that would last millennia. Each of these civilizations shared a reliance on river systems that supported agriculture and provided means of transportation and communication. However, Egypt's Nile River offered unique advantages that contributed to the civilization's unparalleled longevity. Before Egypt became known for its pyramids and powerful pharaohs, it was home to nomadic hunter-gatherer societies. Around 10,000 BCE, North Africa's climate was wetter and more hospitable, providing an environment rich in wildlife and vegetation. Early Egyptians lived as nomads, following game and gathering wild plants, leaving behind stone tools and rock art depicting now extinct animals. As the climate gradually dried around 7,000 BCE, these nomadic groups began to settle along the Nile River, where water remained plentiful year-round. This marked one of humanity's most significant transitions, as people moved from hunting and gathering to settled agriculture. Early farmers cultivated crops like barley and emmer wheat, domesticated animals such as cattle and goats, and established permanent villages along the riverbanks. The Nile, with its annual flooding, became the lifeblood of these communities, shaping every aspect of their existence. Unlike other ancient river civilizations that faced unpredictable flooding, the Nile's annual inundation occurred with remarkable regularity. Each summer, the river rose, depositing mineral-rich silt across the floodplain. This natural fertilization created exceptionally fertile soil that supported abundant crops, providing food security and stability. The predictability of the Nile's cycle gave early Egyptians a profound sense of cosmic order, influencing their religious beliefs and societal organization. They saw the river's rhythm as a reflection of the divine, a concept that would later manifest in their religious and philosophical ideas. The Nile also served as a natural highway, facilitating trade and communication between settlements. Boats traveled up and down the river, carrying goods and ideas, connecting communities, and fostering a sense of shared identity among early Egyptians. As settlements grew more permanent, material culture flourished in prehistoric Egypt. Distinctive pottery traditions emerged, with the black, topped red ware of Upper Egypt becoming particularly characteristic. Craftspeople worked with increasingly diverse materials, including bone, ivory, semi-precious stones, and eventually copper. The earliest Egyptian figurines reveal a growing artistic tradition, with representations of animals, fertility figures, and human forms becoming more sophisticated over time. These artifacts offer glimpses into the beliefs and values of early Egyptian society. Evidence of social hierarchy appeared as communities grew larger and more complex. By 400–500 BCE, certain graves contained noticeably more elaborate goods than others, suggesting the emergence of elite groups who commanded greater resources. These social distinctions would eventually lead to the development of chieftains and proto-kingdoms. The people of prehistoric Egypt were not isolated. Archaeological evidence reveals extensive trade networks reaching into the Levant, Nubia, and even the distant Red Sea coast. Copper from Sinai, gold from Nubia, and shells from the Mediterranean all found their way into Egyptian communities, demonstrating sophisticated exchange networks thousands of years before formal international diplomacy existed. These trade networks facilitated cultural exchange, allowing ideas and technologies to spread across regions. Egyptians adopted and adapted foreign influences, contributing to their cultural and technological development. By 4000 BCE, distinct regional cultures had emerged along the Nile. In the north, the Mahdi culture developed close connections with the Levant, while in southern Egypt, the Badarian and later Naqada cultures created increasingly complex societies. The Naqada culture, named after its type site near modern Luxor, would eventually expand northward, laying the groundwork for Egypt's eventual unification. In the final centuries of the prehistoric era, competing centers of power emerged. Archaeological sites like Hierakonpolis reveal the existence of walled towns with monumental buildings, craft workshops, and evidence of specialized labor. At Abydos, elaborate tombs suggest powerful rulers commanding substantial resources. These proto-states, each controlling sections of the Nile Valley, were the immediate predecessors to the unified Egyptian state. From these fragmented proto-states emerged perhaps the most consequential political event of the ancient world, the unification of Egypt. Around 3100 BCE, King Narmer, a ruler from Upper Egypt, launched a military campaign that successfully conquered Lower Egypt, forging the world's first territorial nation-state under a single authority. The story of this momentous unification survives, most vividly through the Narmer palette, a ceremonial cosmetic slab carved from siltstone. This remarkable artifact tells a visual story across its two sides. On one, Narmer wears the white crown of Upper Egypt and inspects decapitated enemies. On the other, he wears the red crown of Lower Egypt while striking down a northern foe. The palette doesn't just commemorate a military victory. It establishes a visual language of kingship that would persist throughout Egyptian history, making it the first example of propagandistic historical narrative and art. The political genius of Narmer's unification wasn't simply in conquest, but in how he legitimized his rule. Rather than merely subjugating Lower Egypt, he positioned himself as a divine ruler who united the two lands, reinforcing this image through religious and cultural symbols. The unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under King Narmer laid the foundations for Egyptian society. Religious beliefs, governance structures, and cultural practices began to take shape, setting the stage for Egypt's long, lasting civilization. Religious institutions, developed around the concept of divine kingship, with the pharaohs seen as a god on earth. Governance structures became more sophisticated, with a centralized administration overseeing the collection of taxes and the management of resources. Cultural continuity became a hallmark of Egyptian civilization. Despite changes in leadership and external pressures, the core elements of Egyptian society remained remarkably consistent over millennia, contributing to the civilization's endurance. As we conclude this chapter, we have charted the rise of Egypt from its prehistoric roots to the unification of its two lands. The resilience of Egyptian civilization can be attributed to its geographical advantages, its ability to adapt and integrate foreign influences, and its strong cultural identity. In the following chapters, we will delve deeper into the complexities of ancient Egyptian society, exploring the achievements and challenges that defined this remarkable civilization. In the ancient world, few civilizations crafted a concept of kingship as profound and enduring as that of Egypt. The dual identity of the Egyptian king, as both an earthly ruler and a divine intermediary, was not merely a political strategy, but a deeply embedded theological innovation. This duality allowed the king to be seen as a pivotal figure who bridged the mortal and the divine realms, ensuring both the prosperity of the land and the favor of the gods. This fusion of roles was crucial in establishing the foundation for what would eventually evolve into the pharaonic institution. The king was not just a political leader, but also a religious icon, embodying the divine will on earth. This idea was reinforced by the powerful belief that the king was a living god, an embodiment of Horus, the falcon-headed deity associated with kingship and the sky. Unlike other ancient civilizations, where rulers were often seen as mere mortals with exceptional power, the Egyptian king was perceived as inherently divine. This concept had profound implications for Egyptian society, shaping its culture, laws, and even its art. The dual identity of the king was a unifying force, merging the disparate elements of Egyptian society under a single divine authority. This set the stage for a centralized state that, while allowing for regional diversity, maintained a cohesive national identity. The city of Memphis, strategically located at the apex of the Nile Delta, played a critical role in the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Founded by King Narmer, often credited as the first pharaoh of a united Egypt, Memphis became the political and cultural heart of the nation. Its founding symbolized the convergence of two distinct regions, each with its own deities and traditions, into a singular Egyptian identity. The geography of Memphis was no accident. Situated at the crossroads of Upper and Lower Egypt, it was ideally positioned to serve as a neutral ground for the administration of the newly unified state. Archaeological evidence supports the notion that Memphis was initially established as a fortified settlement known as the White Walls, before evolving into a sprawling metropolis. Over the centuries, Memphis grew into a symbol of Egyptian unity and power, its influence extending far beyond its borders. The city's cultural and religious significance was immense, with temples dedicated to Ptah, the creator god, and other deities, reflecting its status as a divine city. Memphis served as the model for later capitals, its legacy enduring long after the city itself had faded from prominence. The unification of Egypt was not only a political and military achievement, but also a cultural and symbolic one. The most iconic representation of this unification was the double crown, known as the Pshent, which combined the white crown of Upper Egypt with the red crown of Lower Egypt. This powerful symbol embodied the king's authority over the entire land, a visual declaration of unity. Royal regalia was steeped in symbolism, with each element carefully chosen to convey the king's divine right to rule. The cobra and vulture, representing the goddesses Wadjet of Lower Egypt and Nekhbet of Upper Egypt, adorned the king's headdress, underscoring his protective power. Titles to evolve to reflect this new reality. The ruler was often referred to as Hay of the Two Ladies, symbolizing the protective goddesses of both regions. This duality was further emphasized by the royal titulary, which incorporated the symbols of Upper and Lower Egypt. Interestingly, the title Pharaoh, now synonymous with Egyptian kings, did not come into regular use until much later. In the early dynastic period, the term referred to the Great House, initially indicating the royal palace, rather than the king himself. This evolution of titles highlights the complexity and depth of the Egyptian understanding of kingship, where the ruler was both a political leader and a living deity. The unification of Egypt under Narmer was not just a symbolic act, but a catalyst for a series of practical innovations that would shape the trajectory of Egyptian civilization. One of the most significant developments was the advancement of hieroglyphic writing. This early form of writing, initially used for ceremonial purposes, quickly evolved into a tool for administration and governance. The need to govern a vast and diverse territory spurred the creation of standardized systems for measurement and taxation. These innovations were essential for maintaining control over the newly unified state, ensuring that resources were efficiently collected and distributed. Centralized taxation allowed the state to fund monumental construction projects and support the elaborate religious ceremonies that were integral to Egyptian society. Artistic conventions also began to standardize during this period, creating a cohesive visual language that transcended regional differences. This homogenization of culture played a crucial role in forging a unified Egyptian identity, one that would endure for millennia. The transition from military conquest to a stable, cohesive civilization was a remarkable achievement. Narmer's successors faced the daunting task of creating a new system of governance from the ground up. This period, known as the early dynastic period, saw the establishment of the first and second dynasties, which laid the groundwork for Egypt's enduring state structure. These early rulers transformed Narmer's military victory into a lasting civilization characterized by distinctive cultural, religious, and administrative practices. Memphis became the administrative hub, strategically positioned to oversee the newly unified land. Under these early kings, writing systems became more sophisticated, evolving from symbolic use into a practical tool for governance. Royal names began to appear enclosed in rectangular frames called serek, precursors to the cartouche, that would later become synonymous with Egyptian royalty. These early hieroglyphics reveal a rapidly evolving system designed primarily for state governance rather than literary expression. The evolution of royal burial practices during the early dynastic period offers a revealing glimpse into the society's values and beliefs. At Abydos, archaeologists have uncovered massive tomb complexes surrounded by rows of smaller subsidiary burials. These tombs, belonging to early kings, were part of a larger necropolis that served as a sacred burial ground. The practice of retainer sacrifice, where court officials, servants, and craftsmen were buried alongside their king, reflects the emerging concept of divine kingship. The belief that the king required attendance in the afterlife justified these extreme measures. This practice, however, was later abandoned as Egyptian civilization evolved and ethical considerations changed. The royal tombs themselves became increasingly elaborate, reflecting the belief in the king's divine status and his eternal journey. To effectively manage their expanding territory, early dynastic kings introduced the nome system, dividing Egypt into administrative regions. Each nome was overseen by a governor or nomarch, responsible for local governance and resource management. This system created Egypt's first formal bureaucracy, allowing for effective taxation and ensuring the efficient allocation of resources. Remarkably, the nome system proved so effective that it endured for thousands of years, becoming a cornerstone of Egyptian administration. This administrative framework enabled the central government to maintain control over a vast and diverse territory, facilitating the development of a cohesive civilization. The early dynastic period was a time of significant architectural and artistic innovation. Traditional mud brick mastaba tombs, with their distinctive rectangular shape and sloping sides, began to incorporate stone elements. This marked the beginning of a shift towards monumental stone construction, which would culminate in the iconic pyramids of the Old Kingdom. These early experiments with stone represented a significant technological leap, requiring new skills and organizational capabilities. Artistically, craftsmen established conventions that would define Egyptian art for centuries. The use of symbolic motifs, stylized forms, and a formalized approach to depicting figures became hallmarks of Egyptian artistic expression. This period laid the foundation for the rich cultural legacy that would continue to evolve throughout Egypt's history. In summary, the unification of Egypt under Narmer marked the beginning of a remarkable civilization. The dual identity of the king, as both earthly ruler and divine mediator, became a cornerstone of Egyptian society, influencing its culture, religion, and governance. The innovations and developments of the early dynastic period set the stage for the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt, a civilization that would captivate the world for millennia. As we continue our exploration, we will delve deeper into the complexities of Egyptian society, uncovering the achievements and challenges that defined this extraordinary civilization. For thousands of years, Egyptian art has stood as a testament to the creativity and ingenuity of ancient Egypt. Central to this artistic tradition are the distinctive features such as the profile view of human figures, hierarchical scaling to indicate social importance, and the use of a grid system for proportional representation. These techniques were not merely stylistic choices, but were deeply symbolic, reflecting the Egyptians' worldview and societal structure. The profile view, for instance, allowed artists to depict the most recognizable features of a person or deity with clarity, conveying not just a likeness but an essence. Hierarchical scaling ensured that the most important figures, often gods or pharaohs, were depicted as larger than others, reinforcing their supreme status. This visual language became a hallmark of Egyptian art, influencing later cultures across the Mediterranean and beyond. Early masterpieces, like the ivory figure of King Den and the depiction of figures in a dynamic running pose, showcase the sophistication that characterized Egyptian artistic production. These works were more than mere representations. They were imbued with meaning and purpose, serving religious, political, and social functions. The symbolism behind these techniques resonated throughout the ages, establishing a visual narrative that celebrated the divine, the eternal, and the power of the pharaohs. The story of how Egypt became one of history's greatest civilizations enters a transformative chapter with the rise of Dynasty III around 2686 BCE. As King Djoser ascended the throne, Egypt stood at the precipice of an extraordinary evolution. The relatively modest kingdom of the early dynastic period was about to become something unprecedented. Society capable of architectural achievements that would remain unrivaled for millennia. King Djoser's ambition changed the course of human history when he commissioned his brilliant vizier, Imhotep, to create his eternal resting place. Breaking from the tradition of mud-brick mastabas, Imhotep designed what would become the step pyramid complex at Saqqara. This was a revolutionary leap in both scale and material, rising 2 and 4 feet high with 6 distinct tiers. It required approximately 50,000 tons of limestone and marked humanity's first monumental stone building. The psychological impact of this achievement cannot be overstated. Before Djoser, royal tombs, while impressive, remained fundamentally impermanent, built from materials that would eventually erode. The step pyramid proclaimed something entirely new, that the king's power transcended time itself. As the sun caught the polished, white limestone casing stones, the structure would have appeared to literally glow on the horizon, a permanent manifestation of royal divinity visible for miles across the Nile Valley. The complex surrounding the pyramid reveals the sophisticated spatial understanding of Imhotep's design. Enclosed by a massive wall stretching 640 feet long and 900 feet wide, the ceremonial courtyard contained numerous ritual structures, including the said festival court, where the king would perform renewal rituals, proving his continued fitness to rule. These structures, initially built in perishable materials like wood and reed, were brilliantly translated into permanent stone, an architectural innovation that demonstrated stone's potential as a flexible building material. Imhotep's genius extended beyond architecture. As Djoser's chief minister and high priest of the creator god Ptah, he embodied the Egyptian ideal of the polymath. His comprehensive knowledge encompassed medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and theology. Such was his lasting reputation that centuries after his death, he achieved something almost impossible in Egyptian society: deification without royal blood. By the late period, Egyptians worshipped him as a god of healing and wisdom, with pilgrims traveling to his sanctuary seeking cures. The Old Kingdom witnessed the full flowering of the concept of divine kingship. While earlier kings had associated themselves with gods, Old Kingdom pharaohs were now understood to be living manifestations of Horus in life and Osiris after death. This theological framework positioned the king as the essential intermediary between humanity and the divine realm, the linchpin that maintained cosmic order. This cosmic order centered on the concept of Maat, often symbolized as a feather or a seated goddess wearing that feather. More than just truth or justice, Maat represented the fundamental harmony of the universe. When pharaohs claimed to live by Maat, they asserted their role as guarantors of cosmic stability. The king's proper performance of rituals, maintenance of temples, and defense of Egypt's borders were considered essential to preventing the world from falling into chaos. To execute their divine mandate, Old Kingdom rulers developed what may have been the world's first true bureaucracy. A sophisticated administrative system emerged with specialized titles and offices. The hierarchy extended from viziers, chief ministers, down through overseers, scribes, and tax collectors. Monuments from this period proudly record titles like Overseer of all the king's works and Keeper of the Royal Archives, suggesting a complex governmental apparatus employing thousands of administrators across the Nile Valley. This bureaucracy was crucial in managing Egypt's resources and coordinating the vast projects that defined the era, including the construction of monumental architecture and the administration of the king's extensive lands. While Imhotep's step pyramid revolutionized Egyptian architecture, what followed would dwarf it in scale and precision. The Fourth Dynasty, from 2613 to 2494 BCE, marked the zenith of pyramid construction under the pharaohs Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. Their monumental tombs at Giza represent the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian engineering and organizational capacity. Khufu's Great Pyramid initially stood 146.6 meters tall, containing approximately 2-3 million stone blocks, weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons each. The mathematical precision is staggering. The base forms an almost perfect square with sides, differing by mere centimeters, despite spanning more than 230 meters. The construction process involved a complex network of specialized workers far beyond what most people imagine. Contrary to Hollywood depictions, these monuments weren't built by masses of slaves, but by rotating teams of skilled Egyptian laborers, supplemented by seasonal agricultural workers during the annual Nile flood when farming was impossible. Archaeological excavations at workers' villages reveal evidence of well-fed laborers who received medical care and were organized into competitive teams with playful names. Graffiti inside unfinished pyramids includes monikers like Friends of Khufu and Drunkards of Menkaure. These massive projects required unprecedented logistical coordination. Special harbors were constructed to receive limestone from Tura and granite from Aswan, hundreds of kilometers away. Copper tools had to be constantly resharpened as they wore down against the hard stone. Food production had to increase to feed the workforce, and specialized artisans were needed to create the intricate interior chambers and passages. The entire enterprise represented a monumental achievement in both human organization and architectural innovation. The Great Pyramids at Giza, with their engineering precision and grandeur, stand as enduring symbols of ancient Egypt's capabilities. The cultural and historical significance of these monuments cannot be overstated. They not only served as tombs, but as powerful statements of the pharaoh's divine right to rule and their connection to the cosmos. The astronomical alignments of the pyramids further underscore their significance. Aligned with the cardinal points and certain star constellations, these structures reflected the Egyptians' deep understanding of the heavens and their belief in the afterlife. The legacy of these structures endures in modern times, continuing to captivate and inspire awe in those who behold them. In conclusion, the innovations and developments during the Old Kingdom set the stage for the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt. From artistic traditions to architectural marvels, from divine kingship to bureaucratic advancements, this era marked the dawn of Egyptian grandeur, a civilization that would captivate the world for millennia. As we continue our exploration, we will delve deeper into the complexities of Egyptian society, uncovering the achievements and challenges that defined this extraordinary civilization. The pyramids of ancient Egypt stand as monumental testaments to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of this enigmatic civilization. These towering structures were not merely grand tombs, but served as vital cosmic and religious instruments. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, the pyramids were intricately linked to the celestial realm. Their construction was guided by a profound understanding of astronomy, as evidenced by the precise alignment of passages to significant stars like those in Orion's belt. To the Egyptians, Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife making these alignments crucial for the pharaoh's journey beyond death. The very shape of the pyramid symbolized the primordial mound, the mythical hillock that emerged at creation, representing the sun's rays descending to earth. This association with the sun tied the pyramids to the great solar deity Ra, reinforcing the pharaoh's divine connection to the cosmic order. The pyramids were thus designed as launch pads, propelling the deceased pharaoh into the afterlife, where he would join the celestial gods as an eternal being. Inside the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the king's chamber holds enigmatic features that continue to puzzle archaeologists. Among them are air shafts that do not ventilate, but instead point directly toward key stars, serving as symbolic conduits for the king's soul. The sarcophagus within the chamber was placed there during construction, highlighting the meticulous planning involved. This advanced engineering underscores the Egyptians' profound commitment to ensuring their rulers' successful journey to the afterlife. The construction of the pyramids represents an unparalleled feat of engineering and organization. The sheer scale of these projects required sophisticated techniques and a highly organized workforce. The precise alignment of the pyramids to the cardinal points and the meticulous planning of internal passages and chambers demonstrate the Egyptians' mastery of geometry and astronomy. It is believed that the construction involved tens of thousands of workers, including skilled laborers, artisans, and architects who coordinated their efforts in a display of remarkable logistical prowess. The workforce was likely composed of conscripted peasants, skilled artisans, and laborers who worked in a well-coordinated system. The use of a large labor force was not only a testament to the pharaoh's authority, but also a demonstration of Egypt's advanced administrative capabilities. Workers were organized into teams, each responsible for specific tasks, and they lived in nearby temporary settlements, where they were provided with food, shelter, and medical care. Materials used in construction, such as limestone and granite, were quarried locally and transported to the building site using a complex system of sledges, ramps, and waterways. The Great Pyramid's construction, for instance, required approximately 2.3 million blocks of stone, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons. The precision with which these stones were cut and assembled is a testament to the Egyptians' advanced engineering skills and their ability to mobilize vast resources. The construction of the pyramids had profound social and political implications. These massive projects reinforced the pharaoh's god-like power, demonstrating his ability to marshal resources and labor on an unprecedented scale. The pyramids became symbols of the pharaoh's divine authority and his role as a mediator between the gods and the people. The process of building these monuments fostered a sense of national identity and purpose. It united thousands of individuals from diverse backgrounds in a shared enterprise that transcended local affiliations. The specialized knowledge developed during construction, from astronomy to engineering, mathematics to project management, created an intellectual legacy that influenced Egyptian civilization for millennia. Pyramid building also had significant economic implications. The mobilization of resources for these projects stimulated economic activity, from agriculture to craftsmanship, creating a complex network of production and trade that underpinned the Egyptian economy. After the Fourth Dynasty, pyramid building continued, but the scale and precision of these projects began to decline. The Fifth Dynasty pharaohs built smaller pyramids while diverting more resources to sun temples. This shift reflects a change in religious and political priorities. as the focus moved from the grandiose construction of pyramids to the establishment of sun temples dedicated to the solar deity Ra. By the 6th dynasty, the quality of pyramid construction had further declined, as royal power gradually diminished. The Great Age of Pyramids lasted only a few generations, yet it represented ancient Egypt at its most powerful and organized. This period was characterized by a society capable of achievements that would remain unmatched for thousands of years. The diminishing scale of pyramids masked a profound transformation within Egyptian society. As physical monuments became smaller, the concept of divine kingship expanded exponentially. The pharaoh's role as a divine figure became more pronounced, reflecting a shift in focus from monumental architecture to the theological and symbolic aspects of kingship. The transformation of the pharaoh's role was not accidental but calculated. The pharaoh now stood at the apex of a sophisticated theological system that presented him as the guarantor of universal harmony. Every morning when the pharaoh awoke, the sun rose not merely by coincidence, but because the king, as the earthly manifestation of the divine, performed the necessary rituals to ensure cosmic continuation. The physical manifestations of royal power became increasingly complex. The pharaoh was rarely seen without his full regalia, including the curved crook representing his role as shepherd of his people, the flail symbolizing his authority to punish, and the distinctive Nim's headdress with its striped cloth framing his face. These weren't merely decorative elements, but visual theology, transforming the human king into a recognizable divine figure whose very appearance reinforced his supernatural status. Throughout temple walls across Egypt, a curious motif appeared with remarkable consistency: scenes of the pharaoh violently striking down enemies. What makes these smiting scenes fascinating is that many were carved during periods of peace when no actual military campaigns were underway. These images served as magical protection, the ritual act frozen in stone, with the pharaoh perpetually defeating the forces of chaos to maintain cosmic order. The enemy figures weren't necessarily historical opponents, but personifications of disorder itself. The growing complexity of royal authority necessitated the expansion of the administrative apparatus. The office of vizier evolved into the most powerful non-royal position in the kingdom, often drawn from elite families or occasionally from the king's own relatives. The vizier oversaw justice, taxation, and most crucial government functions. Every morning, the vizier would meet with the pharaoh to discuss affairs of state before carrying the royal or throughout the bureaucracy. In the king's absence, the vizier's authority was nearly absolute, making him indispensable to governance, yet always subordinate to divine kingship. The economic dimensions of pharaonic power expanded dramatically throughout the temple system. Massive temple complexes weren't simply houses of worship, but economic powerhouses that controlled vast agricultural estates, workshops, and labor forces. Records show that by the height of the New Kingdom, temple domains collectively controlled approximately 1/3 of Egypt's arable land. Each donation the pharaoh made to a temple, whether land, cattle, or precious materials, strengthened both divine and royal authority by creating centers of production and distribution tied directly to pharaonic legitimacy. The theological foundation supporting royal power evolved as well. The solar cult of Ra gained unprecedented prominence, with pharaohs increasingly incorporating Son of Ra into their titular. This divine sonship wasn't metaphorical, but literal in Egyptian theological terms. The king was believed to be physically generated by the sun god's divine essence, infused into the queen through supernatural means. Each pharaoh thus became a living manifestation of divine power, connecting Egypt directly to cosmic forces. In conclusion, the pyramids were far more than architectural wonders. They were the embodiment of a sophisticated civilization that intertwined religious devotion, political power, and social organization into a cohesive whole. As we transition to the next chapter, we will explore how the legacy of these monumental achievements continued to shape Egyptian society and its lasting impact on the ancient world. Around 200 BCE, climate records reveal a severe drying trend that swept across Northeast Africa and the Middle East. This environmental upheaval had profound effects on ancient Egypt, whose civilization was deeply intertwined with the rhythms of the Nile River. The once reliable floods of the Nile became erratic, alternating between insufficient and excessive. This unpredictability wreaked havoc on agriculture, the backbone of Egypt's economy and sustenance. As harvests failed year after year, Egypt faced an agricultural crisis that the centralized state was ill-prepared to manage. The inability to predict and control the floods of the Nile undermined the very foundation of Egyptian society, which relied on the river's bounty. The centralized state, which had successfully managed resources and administered vast construction projects like the pyramids, now faced a dire situation. The crisis exposed the limitations of the state and its administrative bureaucracy. Tax revenues dwindled as agriculture suffered, leading to soaring food prices and a fiscal crisis. The once mighty bureaucracy, which had coordinated efforts like pyramid construction, now struggled to maintain its influence and effectiveness. This environmental disaster struck at the heart of Egypt's ideology of divine kingship. If the pharaoh was truly a living god with control over cosmic forces, why were the fields barren and the storehouses empty? This question gnawed at the foundations of the pharaoh's divine authority. As the crisis deepened, the carefully constructed image of the pharaoh began to crumble. The environmental and agricultural crisis had far-reaching consequences for the ideology of divine kingship in Egypt. The pharaoh, once seen as a god on earth, faced challenges to his legitimacy. The inability to provide for the basic needs of the people called into question the pharaoh's cosmic power. If the divine king could not ensure the fertility of the land, his connection to the gods was doubted. This erosion of trust in the pharaoh's divine authority weakened the centralized bureaucratic structure that had supported his rule. The idea that the king could control the forces of nature was a central tenet of Egyptian belief. With this belief shattered, the divine kingship that had unified Egypt began to falter. The decline in centralized control opened the door for a profound shift in the political landscape. Archaeological evidence from provincial cemeteries tells a revealing story of this time. Local rulers, or nomarchs, began to assert their independence from the pharaoh. Their tomb inscriptions shifted focus from loyalty to the pharaoh to celebrating their own achievements. One provincial governor, Anchiphai, declared himself the great overlord of his region, boasting, "I gave bread to the hungry and clothing to the naked." Such assertions of independence were unimaginable during the height of Old Kingdom power. As the centralized state weakened, provincial leaders seized the opportunity to assert their independence. Nomarchs, who once served as extensions of royal authority, began to redirect resources away from the capital. Memphis, the heart of Egypt's administrative network, gradually lost influence over distant provinces. The decentralization created a political domino effect, leading to a fragmentation of power. With reduced revenues, the pharaoh could no longer commission massive building projects or maintain extensive temple staffs. This erosion of both practical authority and divine legitimacy further weakened central control. Peep II, the last significant ruler of Dynasty 6, epitomized this decline. Traditional sources claim he ruled for 94 years, a length of reign that contributed to instability as he aged. Real power diffused among competing factions at court. Distant provinces slipped further from central control, transforming Egypt from a unified kingdom into autonomous territories. This shift allowed local religious practices to flourish, challenging the dominance of royal cults. Local temple complexes dedicated to provincial deities gained prominence. Provincial elites redirected resources to these local temples, permanently altering Egypt's religious landscape. The weakening of central authority had a profound impact on Egypt's cultural and religious life. With the decline of royal cults, local religious practices gained prominence. Temples dedicated to regional deities flourished, offering an alternative to the state-sponsored religion. This diversification of religious practices reflected a broader cultural transformation. The cosmic powers, once channeled exclusively through the pharaoh, were now dispersed among local cults and priesthoods. This shift allowed for greater religious expression and regional diversity. The physical evidence of Egypt's decline is visible in its monumental architecture. The magnificent pyramids that symbolized Old Kingdom splendor gave way to more modest structures. The last royal pyramid of the Old Kingdom, belonging to Peep II, was markedly reduced in scale and quality. After his death, even these diminished monuments became impossible to sustain. By 2160 BCE, central authority had disintegrated entirely. The unified kingdom fractured into competing territories, ruled by provincial dynasties. Memphis lost its status as the sole capital, with rival centers emerging in Heracleopolis and Thebes. The period following the collapse of central authority is known as the First Intermediate Period. This era, lasting from approximately 2160 to 25 BCE, was marked by regional conflicts and competing royal claims. Despite the political chaos, this period witnessed a cultural renaissance. The collapse of centralized authority created space for regional innovation. Local workshops developed distinctive artistic styles, free from the rigid conventions of royal artisans. Provincial tombs at sites like Moala and Jebelin show experimentation with new motifs and compositions. The northern kingdom, centered at Heracleopolis, was founded by Kheti I, who established the 9th dynasty around 2160 BCE. His successors controlled the fertile Delta region and parts of Middle Egypt, accessing Mediterranean trade networks. These rulers legitimized their authority by emphasizing their role as protectors against banditry and lawlessness. The southern kingdom, based at Thebes, grew gradually under local governors who eventually declared independence as the 11th dynasty. The Theban rulers accessed gold mines in the eastern desert and trade routes to Nubia, providing critical resources. Early Theban kings like Inhotep I and Intef Su expanded their territory northward, challenging Heracleopolitan control. This period saw rulers justifying their authority through tangible actions rather than divine right. Tomb inscriptions candidly describe leaders' concrete achievements, reflecting a new social contract. Protection and provision, rather than divine heritage, earned loyalty during these turbulent times. The political fragmentation sparked a literary explosion, including Egypt's first works of political commentary and social criticism. The instruction for King Narmer, composed by a Heracleopolitan king for his son, offers practical advice for governance. As we transition to the next chapter, we will explore how these competing kingdoms and their leaders navigated the challenges of a divided Egypt. Their strategies for unification and control would shape the next chapter in Egypt's storied history. Speech is a force more potent than any weapon, shaping societies and influencing governance. In ancient Egypt, speech served as a formidable tool for leaders, contrasting with the divine infallibility often claimed by rulers. Ancient texts recognized the complexities and uncertainties inherent in governing, allowing for a leadership style that was adaptable and responsive to change. This adaptability was crucial in times of uncertainty, as it enabled leaders to maintain a semblance of stability and order. Historical examples abound of influential speeches that swayed public opinion and altered the course of history. From the stirring orations of leaders who rallied their people to moments of profound change, to the carefully crafted rhetoric of modern politicians, speech has always been a cornerstone of governance. In the ancient world, where written records were scarce, the spoken word held immense power. It was through speech that leaders communicated their visions, articulated their policies, and inspired their followers. The role of communication in maintaining authority cannot be understated, as it allowed rulers to connect with their subjects and reinforce their legitimacy. In contrast to the divine mandates often associated with kingship, speech offered a more human and relatable form of leadership, one that acknowledged the limitations and challenges of governing in uncertain times. The admonitions of Epo presents a striking departure from the traditional optimism of Egyptian literature. This remarkable text depicts a world completely overturned, where the social order is inverted, and the roles of the rich and poor are reversed. The poor man is full of joy, while the wealthy man is sorrowful. He who never built for himself now owns bullocks. Some scholars interpret this text as a reflection of actual social upheaval, while others see it as a cautionary tale, warning against the consequences of abandoning traditional hierarchies. The impact of literature on social consciousness is profound, as it shapes the way people perceive and understand the world around them. Comparisons with other ancient cautionary tales reveal common themes of disruption and the dangers of challenging the status quo. Archaeological findings support the narratives of social change depicted in these texts, providing tangible evidence of shifting power dynamics and the rise of new social classes. The admonitions of Epo serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of societal structures and the potential for transformation in times of crisis. The decline of central authority during the first intermediate period led to the flourishing of provincial elites. This period of fragmentation created a unique opportunity for social mobility, as the rigid hierarchies of the Old Kingdom gave way to a more meritocratic system. Tombs at Hatshepsut and Beni Hasan showcase elaborate decorations and funeral equipment that, in some cases, surpassed those of contemporary kings. Local governors constructed impressive rock-cut tombs adorned with scenes of hunting, fishing, and agricultural abundance. Displays of wealth that would have been politically impossible under a strong central rule. The role of regional governors became increasingly important as they assumed greater responsibility for local governance. Comparison with other decentralized societies reveals similar patterns of power redistribution and the emergence of influential local elites. These local leaders played a significant role in shaping national politics as their support was crucial for maintaining stability and control. The rise of provincial elites during the First Intermediate Period represents a pivotal moment in Egyptian history, as it marked a shift towards a more decentralized and dynamic political landscape. After nearly a century of division, Theban King Menutep II began a successful campaign of reunification around 2055 BCE. Through military campaigns and strategic marriages, he gradually extended his control northward, ultimately reuniting the fractured kingdom. His victory was commemorated in his innovative mortuary complex at Deir el-Bahari, which combined traditional pyramid elements with new architectural features, reflecting Egypt's changed cultural landscape. This complex symbolizes not only the reunification of Egypt, but also the emergence of a new era in Egyptian history. The strategic importance of these as a political and cultural center cannot be overstated. Its rise to prominence marked a significant shift in Egypt's political geography, as the Middle Kingdom rulers established their power center there. This change represented a complete recalibration of Egyptian culture, religion, and governance, as Theban traditions were integrated into the broader national identity. Menutep I's reign is often remembered as a time of renewal and transformation, as he laid the foundations for a more unified and prosperous Egypt. The rise of Thebes brought profound cultural and religious changes, as the local deity Amun began an ascent that would eventually transform him into Amun, Ra, the supreme state god. Royal propaganda skillfully merged this Theban deity with older traditions, creating theological continuity while establishing new religious authority. This transformation was instrumental in legitimizing the power of the Middle Kingdom rulers, as it provided a divine mandate for their reign. The role of religion in legitimizing power was a central theme in ancient Egyptian society. Theological continuity and change were carefully balanced to maintain a sense of stability and order, while also accommodating new ideas and influences. The integration of local deities into the state religion reflected the broader cultural shifts occurring during this period, as regional identities were incorporated into a cohesive national framework. The Middle Kingdom revolutionized the relationship between pharaoh and subject, emphasizing the concept of accessible kingship and just governance. Royal inscriptions and literature from this period reveal a remarkable shift in how kingship was framed, as rulers were encouraged to speak with truth and justice. The famous tale of the eloquent peasant presents a narrative where even a common farmer could demand justice from the system, illustrating the new ideal of accessible kingship. The evolution of Egyptian kingship during the Middle Kingdom marked a significant departure from the past, as rulers sought to engage more directly with their subjects. The impact of literature on political philosophy was profound, as it shaped the expectations and ideals of leadership. Case studies of effective governance from this period reveal the importance of communication and accountability in maintaining authority and legitimacy. Architectural innovations during the Middle Kingdom reflected the political and cultural shifts of the time. Menutep I's mortuary complex at Deir el-Bahari represents an architectural turning point, combining elements of traditional pyramids with colonnaded terraces. This innovative design incorporated both upper and lower Egyptian elements, visually representing reunification while establishing a new architectural language that would inspire later monuments. The fusion of architectural styles during the Middle Kingdom was a testament to the dynamic and evolving nature of Egyptian society. The political messages embedded in architecture were powerful symbols of authority and legitimacy, as they conveyed the ruler's vision and aspirations. Influence on future architectural developments can be seen in the enduring legacy of Middle Kingdom structures, which continued to inspire and inform later generations. The Middle Kingdom's military and economic expansion was a key factor in Egypt's recovery and growth. Pharaohs dispatched military expeditions southward, establishing fortresses along the Nubian frontier at strategic locations like Buhen and Semna. These structures were not merely defensive, but also controlled crucial trade routes, accessing sub-Saharan Africa's resources. Renewed mining operations in the Sinai turquoise mines and expeditions to exotic locations like Punt facilitated economic recovery and growth. The significance of trade routes and resources in ancient economies cannot be overstated, as they provided the foundation for wealth and prosperity. Military innovation accompanied this expansion, as Middle Kingdom armies introduced new technologies and strategies that enhanced their effectiveness. Literature from this period includes tactical texts describing ideal formation movements and battlefield strategies, revealing a newly professionalized military establishment. The role of military technology and state power was a defining feature of the Middle Kingdom, as it enabled Egypt to assert its dominance and secure its borders. In conclusion, the Middle Kingdom of Egypt was a period of profound transformation and innovation. The challenges and opportunities of this era reshaped the political, cultural, and religious landscape, laying the foundations for a more unified and prosperous society. As we transition to the next chapter, we will explore how these developments influenced the subsequent periods of Egyptian history, as the legacy of the Middle Kingdom continued to resonate for centuries to come. The art of royal portraiture during the 12th dynasty marked a revolutionary shift in Egyptian artistic traditions. Moving away from the idealized forms that had long dominated depictions of pharaohs, artists began to embrace realism, capturing the human qualities and psychological complexities of their subjects. This change was not merely stylistic, but symbolic, reflecting a broader evolution in the perception of kingship itself. Previously, pharaohs had been depicted as eternally youthful and flawless, embodying divine perfection. However, the 12th dynasty saw a departure from this tradition, with portraits that emphasized the natural features of the rulers, including signs of aging and the burdens of leadership. This new artistic approach revealed the immense responsibilities shouldered by the pharaohs and their human vulnerabilities. The portraits of Senesret, for instance, with their furrowed brows and downturned mouths, convey a ruler deeply aware of the gravity of his role. This psychological symbolism in art suggests a profound shift in how kingship was conceptualized. The pharaoh was no longer just a divine figure, but a wise leader who bore the weight of governance and the well-being of his people. The 12th dynasty, spanning from approximately 1991 to 1802 BCE, is renowned for its remarkable stability and efficient governance. Founded by Amenemhat I, the dynasty established patterns of administration that were perfected by his successors. The consistent father-to-son succession during this period provided a stark contrast to the fragmentation and chaos that characterized earlier times. Under Amenemhat I, the role of the vizier became central to the administration. As the pharaoh's chief advisor, the vizier oversaw a complex bureaucracy that ensured the smooth functioning of the state. Provincial administration was also streamlined, with local governors, known as nomarchs, reporting directly to the central government. This balance between central authority and regional administration prevented the independence that had undermined previous dynasties. The dynasty's administrative efficiency was further enhanced by legal innovations. Standardized legal procedures were developed, and judges became increasingly specialized. This legal framework, evidenced in surviving papyri, formalized protocols for land transfers, inheritance disputes, and criminal proceedings, contributing to a more stable and prosperous society. The 12th dynasty is also celebrated for its ambitious architectural and engineering projects, particularly under the reign of Senusret I. The kingdom embarked on a monumental building program that left a lasting legacy on the landscape of Egypt. From the Nile Delta to the Nubian frontier, the dynasty commissioned the construction of temples, fortresses, and other significant structures. One of the most impressive engineering achievements was the transformation of the Fayum region, a natural depression southwest of Memphis. Under Amenemhat II, the area was converted from marshland to fertile farmland through a complex network of canals, dikes, and irrigation systems. The creation of Lake Moeris, an enormous artificial reservoir, was the centerpiece of this endeavor. By capturing floodwaters and releasing them during dry seasons, the lake effectively extended Egypt's agricultural capacity, supporting population growth and generating surplus resources for further state expansion. The construction techniques of the era were sophisticated, employing massive granite pillars and intricate stonework. These projects were not only feats of engineering, but also held religious significance, as temple expansions were seen as offerings to the gods, reinforcing the divine mandate of the pharaohs. Senusret II, one of the most formidable military strategists of the 12th dynasty, focused on securing Egypt's economic interests through a strategic military presence along the Nubian frontier. Unlike later New Kingdom campaigns that sought territorial conquest, Senusret II's expeditions aimed to protect valuable resources, such as gold mines and trade routes. To achieve this, he implemented a dual strategy of military intimidation and infrastructure development. A series of massive fortresses were constructed at regular intervals along the Nubian border, serving both military and administrative purposes. These fortresses, such as those at Oronati and Semna, featured double walls, defensive ditches, and barracks capable of housing hundreds of soldiers. They also functioned as administrative hubs, with workshops, granaries, and offices that facilitated trade and communication between Egypt and its southern neighbors. The military technology of the era included advancements in weaponry and fortification techniques. This strategic approach not only secured Egypt's borders, but also fostered interaction with Nubian societies, leading to cultural exchanges that enriched both civilizations. The cultural achievements of the 12th dynasty were as impressive as its political and military successes. The period saw the development of a distinctive artistic style that captured the psychological depth of royal figures. Artists in the royal court, under the patronage of the pharaohs, produced works that reflected a deeper understanding of kingship and the responsibilities it entailed. In addition to sculpture, the dynasty's influence extended to literature and mythology. Literary works from this period often explored themes of governance, morality, and the human condition, reflecting the intellectual climate of the time. The role of artists and scribes in the royal court became increasingly important, as they were tasked with documenting the achievements and philosophies of the pharaohs. Legal innovations during the 12th dynasty played a crucial role in stabilizing Egyptian society and enhancing administrative efficiency. The development of standardized legal procedures and the specialization of judges were significant advancements that contributed to a more orderly and predictable society. These legal transformations are documented in various papyri, which provide insights into the formalized protocols for resolving disputes and conducting business. The legal system of the 12th dynasty can be compared to those of other ancient civilizations, highlighting Egypt's advanced approach to governance and justice. The impact of these legal innovations extended beyond the courtroom, influencing social hierarchy and interactions. The establishment of clear legal norms and the role of judges in enforcing them helped to maintain social order and prevent conflicts, contributing to the overall prosperity of the kingdom. Despite its achievements, the Middle Kingdom's foundations were not as robust as they appeared. The very systems that elevated Egypt to unprecedented heights contained vulnerabilities that, when exploited, led to its eventual decline. The 13th dynasty marked the beginning of this downturn, characterized by a rapid turnover of rulers and administrative instability. The succession crisis of the 13th dynasty resulted in short reigns and frequent changes in policy and personnel, undermining the bureaucratic machine that had sustained Egypt's golden age. As central authority weakened, the kingdom's borders became increasingly porous, allowing for the gradual infiltration of foreign peoples. The Delta region, always a vulnerable frontier, saw the influx of Canaanite immigrants from the Levant. These newcomers integrated into Egyptian society, settling in trading centers and maintaining connections to their homeland. This integration, while initially peaceful, laid the groundwork for the eventual takeover by the Hyksos. The Hyksos takeover of Egypt, around 1650 BCE, marked a profound shift in power dynamics. Known to Egyptians as rulers of foreign lands, the Hyksos established political control over the Delta region, declaring themselves the 15th dynasty. Their rule was characterized by a blending of cultural and administrative practices from both Egyptian and foreign traditions. Unlike later invasions by Assyrians or Persians, the Hyksos transition was more akin to a corporate merger than a hostile takeover. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Hyksos integrated into Egyptian society, adopting its customs and governance structures while introducing innovations of their own. The socio-economic impact of the Hyksos' rule was significant, as they controlled the richest agricultural region and influenced trade and commerce. Their legacy in Egyptian history is complex, as their presence contributed to the eventual reunification of Egypt and the rise of the new kingdom. As we reflect on the achievements and challenges of the 12th dynasty, it becomes clear that this period was a transformative era in Egyptian history. The dynasty's innovations in governance, culture, and military strategy laid the foundations for future developments, while its vulnerabilities served as lessons for subsequent generations. The legacy of the Middle Kingdom continued to resonate throughout Egyptian history, shaping the civilization's identity and its enduring influence on the world. The emergence of the Hyksos period in ancient Egypt marked a significant chapter in the tapestry of cultural exchange and synthesis. Avaris, the capital of the Hyksos rulers, stood as a testament to the blending of Levantine and Egyptian architectural styles. The city's skyline was dotted with structures that bore the hallmark of Levantine influence, while still embracing the grandeur of Egyptian design. Tombs with distinct burial customs reveal a society where traditional Egyptian practices coexisted harmoniously with foreign elements. The seals and scarabs crafted during this time illustrate a fascinating duality. These artifacts often depicted Hyksos kings with Egyptian royal titles and iconography, yet they retained their foreign names and cultural identity. This synthesis was not merely an aesthetic choice, but a strategic one. By adopting Egyptian royal symbols, the Hyksos legitimized their rule in the eyes of both native Egyptians and their own people. Their ability to navigate and integrate these cultural elements played a crucial role in maintaining political stability during their reign. The military landscape of Egypt underwent a profound transformation during the Hyksos period. The introduction of horse-drawn chariots revolutionized warfare in North Africa. These chariots, equipped with composite wheels designed for speed, allowed armies to execute swift attacks and strategic retreats. For the Egyptian forces, accustomed to traditional infantry tactics, the mobility and agility of chariot warfare presented an unprecedented challenge. Alongside this innovation came advancements in metallurgy. The Hyksos introduced bronze weapons that were far superior to the copper-based arsenal of the Egyptians. These stronger weapons gave the Hyksos a decisive edge, enabling them to assert their dominance over the region. The broader implications of these innovations were profound, as neighboring regions soon adopted similar advancements, reshaping the military strategies across North Africa. While the Hyksos exerted control over Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, particularly the region of Thebes, became a bastion of resistance. The 17th dynasty rulers skillfully balanced the adoption of Hyksos military advancements with a narrative of defiance. Archaeological evidence from this period, including tomb inscriptions and military imagery, reveals this complex duality. Tombs of the era are adorned with traditional Egyptian motifs, yet they also depict scenes of battles and warriors armed with foreign weapons. This adaptation was a pragmatic choice, as it allowed the Theban rulers to strengthen their own military capabilities while preserving a sense of cultural identity. Propaganda played a pivotal role in shaping the historical narrative of resistance. Through inscriptions and public declarations, the Theban rulers cast themselves as defenders of Egyptian sovereignty, rallying their people against the foreign rulers. The task of reconstructing the Hyksos period is fraught with challenges due to the scarcity of official documentation. Unlike the meticulous record-keeping of previous Egyptian dynasties, administrative papyri from the Hyksos period are virtually non-existent. Historians are left to piece together that the era's events from a patchwork of private inscriptions, archaeological remains, and later accounts. These sources are often colored by nationalistic sentiments, making it difficult to discern an unbiased narrative. Even the sequence of kings during this period remains a contentious topic among scholars. Despite these challenges, the Hyksos period was not a mere dark age of foreign oppression. Cultural exchange flowed in both directions, with Hyksos rulers adopting Egyptian administrative practices and religious customs. The worship of Egyptian deities, particularly Set, became intertwined with their own religious traditions, forging innovative theological combinations that influenced future generations. The tensions between Thebes and Avaris eventually erupted into open conflict, marking a turning point in Egypt's history. The violent death of Second Nenri-Tao, a Theban king, is a testament to the fierce struggle against the Hyksos. His skull, bearing the marks of Hyksos-style battle axes, tells the story of a king who died in combat, fighting to reclaim his nation's sovereignty. His son Kamose continued the fight, leaving behind a victory stela that captured the nationalistic fervor of the resistance. The inscription on the stela boldly declared, "Why do I contemplate my strength, while there is a ruler in Avaris and another in Kush?" This question encapsulates the determination of the Theban rulers to reunite Egypt and restore its former glory. The reunification of Egypt under Ahmose I, a determined Theban prince, marked the end of a century of foreign rule. His relentless campaign against the Hyksos culminated in their expulsion around 1550 BCE and the establishment of the 18th dynasty. This victory was not merely a liberation, but a transformation of Egypt's worldview. The bitter memories of foreign domination left an indelible mark on Egyptian consciousness, fueling a determination to prevent such humiliation from ever happening again. In the wake of reunification, Egypt's military underwent a radical transformation. The Egyptians, having learned from their former Hyksos rulers, adopted and refined the military innovations that had once been used against them. The chariot became the linchpin of Egyptian warfare, enabling archers to rain arrows on enemy formations before executing swift retreats. Military careers emerged as prestigious pathways to power, with successful generals often rewarded with vast estates and political influence. This professionalization of the military marked a departure from the ad hoc forces of the past, establishing a permanent institution that would drive Egypt's imperial ambitions. The social structure of Egypt also evolved, with military achievements becoming a key determinant of status and power. The reunification of Egypt brought about significant religious and economic transformations. The priesthood of Amun played a pivotal role in supporting the Theban royal family during their struggle against the Hyksos. In gratitude, Ahmose and his successors lavished unprecedented wealth and authority upon Amun's temples, elevating the deity to a position of supreme prominence. The merging of Amun with the sun god, Ra, created a powerful theological entity whose earthly representatives wielded immense political and economic power. Economically, the exploitation of Nubian gold mines and the tribute from conquered peoples fueled Egypt's imperial ambitions. Ahmose reopened trade routes that had been disrupted during the Second Intermediate Period, securing luxury goods that the elite craved. The influx of stone, timber, and exotic materials enabled a construction boom that reshaped the Egyptian landscape. Diplomacy played an equally crucial role in securing Egypt's position as a dominant power. Diplomatic marriages and treaties forged alliances with neighboring territories, while the careful placement of loyal administrators ensured their continued loyalty. The education of foreign leaders' children in Egypt served as a form of honored hostage-taking. This practice ensured the loyalty of their parents, while exposing future leaders to Egyptian culture and values. The court culture that developed during this period reflected Egypt's newfound cosmopolitan identity, characterized by a rich tapestry of cultural exchange. This cosmopolitanism fostered a sense of shared identity among the diverse peoples under Egypt's rule, further solidifying its position as a dominant power in the ancient world. In conclusion, the Hyksos period was a time of profound transformation for Egypt. The cultural synthesis, military innovations, and subsequent reunification under Theban leadership laid the groundwork for the new kingdom's golden age. The legacy of this era, marked by resistance, adaptation, and integration, continued to shape Egypt's identity and influence for generations to come. In the evolving tapestry of ancient Egypt, a remarkable chapter unfolded during the New Kingdom, a period when foreign influences began to permeate Egyptian society in unprecedented ways. This era witnessed a burgeoning openness to the artistic, linguistic, and fashion trends of neighboring civilizations. The royal family, far from rejecting these influences, embraced certain aspects of international style, weaving them into the fabric of Egyptian culture, while steadfastly maintaining their religious practices and royal iconography. This cultural melting pot was fueled by Egypt's dynamic trade networks, which acted as conduits for a rich exchange of goods and ideas. Through trade, Egypt was introduced to the artistic styles of the Minoans, the luxury goods of the Levant, and the advanced weaponry of the Hittites. Egyptian artisans began to incorporate foreign motifs into their work, creating an eclectic blend that was both innovative and distinctly Egyptian. The language of Egypt, too, evolved during this period, absorbing loanwords from its neighbors, especially in the realms of trade and military. This linguistic expansion reflected the interconnectedness of the ancient world and underscored Egypt's role as a hub of cultural exchange. The reigns of Hatshepsut and Thutmose II marked the zenith of Egyptian art and architecture, a golden age where the pragmatic adaptation of foreign ideas led to unparalleled achievements. Hatshepsut, a visionary in her own right, commissioned grand architectural projects, including her famous mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, which showcased a blend of traditional Egyptian design with innovative elements inspired by foreign architecture. This temple, with its terraces and colonnades, stood as a testament to the harmonious integration of diverse influences. Artists and craftsmen held esteemed positions in society, revered for their ability to capture the divine essence in their work. Their creations were not mere artistic expressions, but were imbued with symbolism, reflecting the cosmic order and the pharaoh's divine role as the intermediary between the gods and the people. Thutmose III continued this legacy of architectural grandeur, commissioning numerous temples and monuments that celebrated his military victories and divine patronage. These projects, often adorned with intricate carvings and vibrant colors, were a testament to the wealth and power of the Egyptian empire. Under the 18th dynasty, Egypt transformed its defensive strategies into a formidable imperial machine. Thutmose I expanded Egypt's boundaries further than any previous ruler, pushing deep into Syria and establishing a frontier at the Euphrates River. This expansion was commemorated with the erection of a victory stela, a powerful symbol of Egypt's dominance. Thutmose II, often hailed as Egypt's greatest military leader, embarked on a series of campaigns that further solidified Egypt's imperial might. His victory at Megiddo, where he faced a coalition of Canaanite princes, became legendary. By leading his forces through a treacherous pass and catching the enemy by surprise, he secured a crucial foothold in the Levant. The subsequent siege and submission of numerous city-states underscored Egypt's military prowess and strategic acumen. The Egyptian military, under the warrior pharaohs, was a sophisticated and well-oiled machine. Chariots, once a foreign innovation, became integral to Egyptian warfare, providing speed and agility on the battlefield. Specialized divisions of archers, infantry, and scouts demonstrated the army's adaptability and strategic depth. These tales, whether true or exaggerated, reinforced the image of the pharaoh as an invincible warrior king, a living god whose victories ensured the stability of the cosmos. Egypt's imperial success was not solely due to military might, but also to a robust administrative infrastructure. Garrison towns dotted the landscape of conquered territories, each managed by military commanders, tax collectors, and diplomatic representatives. Local rulers who submitted to Egyptian authority were allowed to maintain their possessions, provided they sent their heirs to Egypt for education. This system, a subtle form of hostage-taking, ensured compliance and loyalty. The documentation of military campaigns was meticulous, serving both as records and powerful propaganda tools. The annals of Thutmose II, inscribed on the walls of Karnak Temple, detailed his conquests with precision, listing the spoils of war and the captured nobles. These records were not mere boasts, but reinforced the divine mandate of the pharaoh to maintain order through military supremacy. The expansion of the Egyptian empire brought about significant cultural and social transformations. Foreign goods became status symbols among the elite, with Minoan-inspired frescoes adorning palaces and exotic foods gracing royal tables. Levantine jewelry and fashion became fashionable in noble circles, reflecting the cosmopolitan nature of Egyptian society. Even religious practices were influenced, with Canaanite deities like Baal and Astarte being incorporated into the Egyptian pantheon, demonstrating the flexibility and adaptability of Egyptian religious beliefs. The Egyptian language, too, absorbed hundreds of loanwords from its subject peoples, indicating the deep cultural interchange that characterized this period. The Amarna letters, a cache of diplomatic correspondence, provide invaluable insight into Egypt's sophisticated network of relationships with other great powers. These letters, written in Akkadian cuneiform, reveal the intricacies of diplomacy, espionage, and the geopolitical landscape of the ancient Near East. Royal messengers traveled between courts, carrying these letters, while spies disguised as merchants gathered intelligence on potential threats. This diplomatic network was crucial in maintaining Egypt's influence and securing its borders from external threats. Among the pharaohs who expanded Egyptian monuments, Hatshepsut stands apart not for her military triumphs, but for shattering ancient gender barriers. When Thutmose II died unexpectedly, Hatshepsut transformed from queen regent to Egypt's most successful female pharaoh, a ruler whose legacy would be so threatening that future kings would attempt to erase her from history. Hatshepsut declared herself king of Upper and Lower Egypt, commissioning statues that showed her in traditional male regalia while maintaining her identity as a woman. Her political maneuvering revealed her diplomatic genius. She maintained Thutmose II as co-ruler while gradually claiming primary royal authority, securing the support of high officials and the influential priesthood of Amun. Her reign prioritized economic prosperity over military expansion, focusing on rebuilding Egypt's trading networks. Her most famous diplomatic achievement was the expedition to Punt, which brought back wealth and exotic goods, further enhancing Egypt's prosperity. In conclusion, the New Kingdom was a period of remarkable cultural synthesis and expansion for Egypt. The pragmatic adaptation of foreign influences in art, language, and fashion enriched Egyptian society, while military and diplomatic successes underscored Egypt's dominance. The legacy of this era, marked by innovation, integration, and resilience, continued to shape Egypt's identity and influence for generations to come. The land of Punt was shrouded in mystery and allure, immortalized in detailed reliefs at Hatshepsut's mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. These intricate carvings tell the story of an extraordinary expedition, showing Egyptian ships brimming with exotic treasures, myrrh trees, frankincense, gold, ivory, and a menagerie of animals including baboons and leopards. The Punt expedition was not merely a commercial venture. It was a triumph of political strategy and a testament to Hatshepsut's diplomatic prowess. By securing these luxury goods through trade rather than warfare, Hatshepsut displayed Egypt's reach and influence. The expedition was a bold statement of Egypt's capability and prestige, enhancing its cultural and economic landscape. The logistics of the journey were formidable, involving complex planning and execution. The fleet had to navigate the Red Sea, a challenging endeavor that required skilled sailors and a robust understanding of the maritime routes. The variety of goods acquired spoke volumes of the trade network's breadth, each item carrying cultural significance that enriched Egyptian society. The depiction of Punt in Egyptian art and literature further emphasized its importance, capturing the imagination of generations and cementing the expedition's place in history. Hatshepsut's architectural legacy is as enduring as her political achievements. Her crowning architectural achievement, the mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, stands as one of ancient Egypt's most innovative designs, built into the cliffs opposite Thebes. Its elegant terrace structure, with colonnaded facades, creates a perfect harmony between architectural precision and the natural landscape. The temple served multiple purposes: a monument to her reign, a venue for her mortuary cult, and a powerful piece of propaganda demonstrating her legitimacy as pharaoh. This architectural marvel was not only a testament to her power, but also a reflection of her desire to be remembered as a divine ruler. Compared to other Egyptian mortuary temples, Hatshepsut's temple was unique in its integration with the natural environment and its innovative use of space and design. The architecture played a crucial role in legitimizing her rule, symbolizing her divine right and her connection to the gods. The temple's art and design were rich with symbolism, depicting scenes of divine birth and her connection to the gods, reinforcing her claim to the throne. Hatshepsut's use of theology to strengthen her claim to the throne was both sophisticated and effective. She commissioned reliefs depicting her divine conception, where the god Amun took the form of her father Thutmose, and visited her mother. This narrative elevated her claim above mere human politics, casting her as a divinely ordained leader. The story of her divine conception was a powerful tool, positioning her as a ruler appointed by the gods themselves. In ancient Egyptian politics, divine narratives were often used to legitimize rule, but Hatshepsut's use of this narrative was particularly impactful. It set her apart from other rulers, reinforcing her unique position as both a female pharaoh and a divinely chosen leader. This theological foundation had lasting implications for her rule and legacy, influencing Egyptian theology and the perception of female power. Central to Hatshepsut's rule was her commitment to restoring and maintaining Ma'at, the concept of cosmic order. She undertook numerous restoration projects, reviving monuments and temples that had fallen into disrepair. Her efforts in reopening trade routes and celebrating grand religious festivals reinforced her legitimacy and contributed to Egypt's prosperity. Ma'at was a cornerstone of Egyptian society, representing truth, balance, and order. Hatshepsut's dedication to Ma'at was evident in her policies and actions, which emphasized stability and continuity. The specific restoration projects she undertook were significant, breathing new life into Egypt's cultural heritage and reinforcing her role as a preserver of tradition. Through trade, she enhanced Egypt's economy and political stability, securing its position as a dominant power in the ancient world. Despite her achievements, Hatshepsut's legacy faced systematic erasure by her successor, Thutmose III. After her death, her name and image were chiseled from monuments. Her statues toppled and broken, and her achievements were reassigned to male pharaohs. This erasure was not merely personal revenge. It was an effort to restore the exclusive male nature of Egyptian kingship. The methods of erasure were thorough and deliberate, aimed at removing her from official history. Gender played a significant role in this political landscape, as her reign challenged traditional notions of male dominance. The rediscovery and modern interpretation of Hatshepsut's reign have shed light on these dynamics, offering a more nuanced understanding of gender and power in ancient Egypt. The Egyptian history features few true revolutionaries, but the pharaoh known as Akhenaten took a radical approach that created profound shockwaves. Born as Amenhotep IV, he initially ruled conventionally, but later underwent a spiritual transformation that dramatically altered Egyptian society. He elevated the Aten, represented as a sun disk with rays ending in hands, above all other deities, effectively cancelling the worship of the traditional pantheon. This religious revolution was accompanied by significant changes in art and culture. The Amarna style, as it came to be known, was distinctive and immediately recognizable, with royal figures depicted in elongated forms and intimate family scenes. Akhenaten's new city, Akhenaten, was a testament to his vision, with open-air temples and palaces aligned to the sun's path. His religious reforms had far-reaching political and social consequences, disrupting the established order and challenging the priesthood's power. Queen Nefertiti, whose name means "the beautiful one has come," was not merely a consort but a co-ruler with significant political and religious influence. Her famous limestone bust, discovered in 1912, reveals her beauty and her political significance. In temple reliefs, she is shown wearing the crown of pharaoh and performing activities traditionally reserved for kings. Some scholars believe that after Akhenaten's death, Nefertiti may have ruled briefly as pharaoh under different names. Her role as a co-ruler and her depiction in art highlight the depiction of female power in ancient Egypt, challenging traditional gender roles and cementing her legacy. While Akhenaten focused on religious reforms, Egypt's external power began to decline. The Hittites expanded their influence, and local rebellions threatened Egyptian control. Akhenaten's minimal response to these challenges led to instability, and his successors faced the task of restoring the traditional religious order. Tutankhamun, the child king who inherited the throne at a time of crisis, is paradoxically famous for the discovery of his tomb rather than his reign. Despite his short and relatively uneventful reign, the archaeological significance of his tomb has made him one of the most recognized figures in history. The geopolitical challenges and the influence of court officials during his reign are crucial to understanding this period of Egyptian history. In conclusion, the era of Hatshepsut and Akhenaten was marked by innovation and upheaval, challenging traditions and reshaping Egyptian society. Their legacies, those subjected to erasure and controversy, continue to captivate and inform our understanding of ancient Egypt's complex history. As we transition to the next chapter, we delve deeper into the dynamics of power, religion, and legacy that defined this fascinating civilization. In the aftermath of Akhenaten's tumultuous reign, Egypt found itself on the brink of religious and political chaos. The radical shift towards monotheism under Akhenaten had not only dismantled centuries of religious tradition, but had also isolated Egypt on the international stage. With the youthful Tutankhamun ascending the throne, a concerted effort was made to restore the old order. This was no easy task for a young king, yet it was one that would define his reign. The restoration stele emerged as a cornerstone document, during this period, a proclamation that underscored the dire state of Egypt under Akhenaten's rule. It painted a stark picture of neglect and disrepair, with temples in ruins and the gods seemingly having abandoned their lands. This document was not merely a political instrument, but a theological correction, aimed at re-establishing the divine favor believed to be essential for Egypt's prosperity. Tutankhamun, though young, was surrounded by capable advisors who deftly navigated the political landscape. Chief among them was a seasoned statesman who had weathered the storm of the Amarna period by cleverly adapting to the new religious orders while maintaining a foothold in traditional practices. His experience and influence were pivotal in orchestrating Egypt's return to religious orthodoxy. Alongside I was General Horemheb, who took charge of military affairs, striving to rebuild Egypt's neglected defenses and restore its international standing. Under their guidance, the temples dedicated to Amun, Ra and other deities were meticulously restored, and craftsmen were summoned to repair and recreate the once vibrant statues that symbolized Egypt's divine pantheon. The young king himself became a vital symbol of this restoration, depicted in temple reliefs, making offerings to the gods. His cartouches appeared on monuments throughout the land, symbolically reclaiming them for traditional religion. This was not merely religious posturing. It was a desperate attempt to restore Ma'at, the cosmic order and balance, to a kingdom that had descended into chaos. The revival of traditional religious practices was critical for re-establishing the societal balance disrupted during Akhenaten's rule. Temples were not just religious centers, but also hubs of economic and cultural activity. The restoration of these structures was symbolic, signaling a return to the stability and prosperity that had characterized Egypt for centuries. The craftsmen, artists, and laborers who worked on these projects were not just rebuilding stone, but were also reconstructing a way of life. The public reception to these changes was cautiously optimistic. For the average Egyptian, the return to familiar rituals and festivals was a welcome respite from the uncertainty of recent years. The restoration of temple festivals, which were central to community life, helped to reinforce social bonds and cultural identity. This revival extended beyond the religious sphere, influencing art and literature. Artistic styles returned to the traditional forms, emphasizing symmetry and balance, while literature celebrated the divine order and the pharaoh's role in maintaining it. Despite the efforts to restore Egypt, Tutankhamun faced significant personal and political challenges. His health was a continuous concern, with evidence from his mummy revealing ailments such as a club foot and multiple instances of malaria. These health issues, likely exacerbated by the practice of intermarriage within the royal family, limited his ability to govern independently. The young pharaoh's reign was largely directed by his advisors, I and Horemheb, who acted as regents of sorts. Tutankhamun's death at a young age left Egypt without a direct heir, creating a power vacuum that his widow, Akhenaten, struggled to fill. Her desperate plea to the Hittite king for a marriage alliance was a bold move that ultimately failed, but it highlighted the precarious nature of the royal family's position. The subsequent rise of I to the throne, followed by Horemheb, marked the end of the Amarna period's influence and the beginning of a new era. The diplomatic landscape during Tutankhamun's reign was fraught with challenges. The memory of Akhenaten's isolationist policies lingered, and Egypt's international relations needed careful rebuilding. One of the more ambitious diplomatic initiatives was Akhenaten's letter to the Hittite king, seeking an alliance through marriage. This proposal, while ultimately unsuccessful, was indicative of the lengths to which Egypt was willing to go to secure its borders and maintain peace. The geopolitical climate of the region was complex, with the Hittites emerging as a significant power. The failure of this diplomatic overture underscored the limitations of Egypt's influence during this period. Nevertheless, the efforts to engage with neighboring states laid the groundwork for future diplomatic relations, which would be further developed under later rulers. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 by Howard Carter was a watershed moment in archaeology, revealing an almost intact burial site that captivated the world. The opulence of the artifacts found within, including the iconic gold mask, provided unprecedented insight into the burial practices and artistry of the New Kingdom. These treasures, numbering over 398 items, offered a glimpse into the wealth and sophistication of ancient Egypt. The discovery transformed Tutankhamun from a relatively obscure pharaoh into one of the most famous figures in history. His tomb has become synonymous with the grandeur and mystery of ancient Egypt, sparking a global fascination that endures to this day. Following the restoration of traditional practices under Tutankhamun, Egypt entered a period of unprecedented growth and prosperity under Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. Ascending the throne in his early 20s, Ramses embarked on an ambitious campaign to transform Egypt's landscape through monumental architecture. His reign, spanning 66 years, was marked by grandiose building projects that would cement his legacy as one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs. The temples at Abu Simbel are perhaps the most extraordinary testament to Ramses' Sivi's vision. Carved into the sandstone cliffs overlooking the Nile, these colossal structures were designed with precise astronomical alignment. Twice a year, the rising sun illuminates the inner sanctuary, a feat that underscores the engineering prowess of ancient Egypt. The temples not only served religious purposes, but also acted as a lasting symbol of Ramses' power and divine favor. Beyond Abu Simbel, Ramses II's contributions to Egypt's architectural heritage are vast. He expanded or constructed over a dozen major temples, numerous statues, and entire cities. His mortuary temple, the Ramesseum, and the sprawling city of Pi, Ramesses stand as testaments to his vision and ambition. These structures, adorned with his likeness, were not only intended to honor the gods, but also to immortalize Ramses' legacy for future generations. Ramses II's military exploits were as impressive as his architectural achievements. His campaigns, particularly against the Hittite Empire, were pivotal in defining his reign. The Battle of Kadesh, one of the most famous engagements of the ancient world, showcased Ramses' military acumen and the power of propaganda. Although the battle itself ended in a stalemate, Ramses' portrayal of it as a decisive victory became a cornerstone of his legacy. Depicted in elaborate reliefs across temple walls, these scenes of martial prowess served to reinforce his image as a warrior king favored by the gods. The use of propaganda was a powerful tool, shaping the perception of Ramses' reign both within Egypt and beyond its borders. Ramses' legacy is a complex tapestry of military might, architectural grandeur, and political astuteness. His reign transformed Egypt into a superpower, influencing the cultural and political landscape of the ancient world. His ability to blend divine imagery with earthly power ensured that his name would be remembered long after his death. In the shadows of his monumental achievements, the legacy of Tutankhamun and Ramses II continues to captivate and inspire. reminding us of the enduring power of ancient Egypt's history and the rulers who shaped its destiny. In 1258 BCE, two ancient superpowers set a precedent that would echo through the annals of history, crafting what is recognized as the world's first recorded peace treaty. This landmark agreement was between the Egyptians, led by Ramses II, and the Hittites, under the rule of King Hatshepsut II. Inscribed in both hieroglyphics and Hittite cuneiform, the treaty established clear boundaries, military alliances, and even extradition policies, showcasing an unprecedented level of diplomatic engagement. The significance of this treaty cannot be overstated. It marked a shift from the incessant warfare that characterized much of the ancient world to a structured approach to conflict resolution. The terms of the treaty were meticulously detailed, ensuring mutual respect and cooperation between these two formidable powers. This document was so pivotal that a replica now hangs at the United Nations headquarters in New York, serving as a symbol of ancient diplomacy and the timeless quest for peace. The context leading to this treaty was one of prolonged conflict. The Egyptians and Hittites had clashed repeatedly, most notably at the Battle of Kadesh. However, both empires recognized the toll that continuous warfare took on their resources and stability. Thus, they pursued a path of diplomacy, setting a standard for future generations. Comparing this ancient treaty with modern diplomatic agreements reveals the enduring principles of mutual respect and the pursuit of peace that continue to guide international relations. Amidst the grandeur of Ramses' reign, his beloved Queen Nefertari stood out as a beacon of grace and influence. Nefertari was not just a queen. She was a symbol of beauty, intelligence, and cultural sophistication. Her unique position and the honors she received during her lifetime and posthumously are a testament to her extraordinary legacy. Nefertari's tomb in the Valley of the Queens is a masterpiece of ancient Egyptian art. The vibrant colors and exquisite paintings that adorn her resting place have survived the ravages of time, offering a glimpse into the artistic excellence of ancient Egypt. Her tomb is more than just a burial site. It is a celebration of life, love, and devotion. The temple at Abu Simbel, dedicated to her and the goddess Hathor, further underscores her significance in Ramses's life and in Egyptian society. The role of women in ancient Egypt, as exemplified by Nefertari, was complex and multifaceted. Women could wield considerable influence, both politically and culturally. Nefertari's prominence and the artistic legacy she left behind highlight the respect and reverence accorded to women of her stature. Her connection to the goddess Hathor, the deity of love, music, and beauty, also reflects the spiritual and cultural dimensions of her legacy. One of Ramses' most notable strategies for ensuring his legacy was his penchant for inscribing his name on existing monuments. This practice was not merely an act of vanity, but a calculated effort to cement his place in history. By rewriting the past to position himself at the center of Egypt's narrative, Ramses sought immortality through omnipresence. This strategy of legacy building reveals much about the psychology of ancient rulers. For Ramses, ensuring that his name would be remembered was paramount. By associating himself with the grandeur of existing monuments, he effectively ensured that his legacy would endure. This practice also speaks to the broader theme of historical revisionism, where rulers seek to shape the narrative to suit their purposes. Ramses' major constructions, such as the temples at Abu Simbel and the expansion of Karnak, further illustrate his monumental legacy. These structures not only demonstrate his architectural prowess, but also serve as enduring symbols of his reign. However, they also highlight the tension between historical reality and the narrative that Ramses sought to create. Despite Ramses' efforts to secure his legacy, the empire he had strengthened began to unravel shortly after his death. The seeds of decline were sown through a combination of internal and external factors that would ultimately lead to Egypt's diminishing power on the world stage. Succession issues plagued the empire almost immediately. Ramses' 13th son Meneptah ascended the throne at an advanced age, facing challenges from both within and beyond Egypt's borders. His reign, though marked by victories against Libyan invasions and the Sea Peoples, also signaled the beginning of a slow decline. The famous Israel Stele, which contains the earliest known written reference to Israel, attests to Meneptah's military prowess, but also underscores the growing instability. The power vacuum that emerged after Meneptah's death led to a period of succession disputes and short-lived reigns. The 20th dynasty, in a bid to recapture past glory, saw multiple rulers adopting the name Ramses, hoping to invoke the power of their legendary predecessor. This naming convention reveals the profound belief in the power of names in ancient Egyptian culture, as rulers sought to channel the strength of history's most successful pharaoh. Among the successors of Ramses II, Ramses III stands out as perhaps the last truly effective pharaoh of the New Kingdom. His reign was marked by the formidable threat posed by the Sea Peoples, a confederation of naval raiders from various Mediterranean regions. Around 1175 BCE, these invaders swept through the eastern Mediterranean, leaving destruction in their wake. Ramses II's military strategies were instrumental in defeating the Sea Peoples. The battle scenes depicted at his mortuary temple at Medinet Habu vividly illustrate the fierce combat and the decisive victory achieved by the Egyptians. His navy's tactical prowess, combined with the skill of Egyptian archers, ensured that the invaders were repelled. Yet, despite this triumph, the victory proved costly. The immense military expenditure drained Egypt's resources, leading to economic troubles and a gradual decline in international standing. The end of Ramses II's reign was marred by intrigue and betrayal. The Herm conspiracy, a plot orchestrated by members of the royal court, sought to assassinate the pharaoh and place a minor prince on the throne. Modern examinations of Ramses as mummy have confirmed a fatal throat wound, likely inflicted by the conspirators, corroborating ancient judicial records. The conspiracy's success in killing Ramses III marked a turning point for Egypt. Though the plotters were eventually caught and executed, the stability of the empire was irreparably damaged. The pharaohs who succeeded Ramses III faced mounting challenges as tomb robberies became rampant and central authority weakened. As Egypt entered the Third Intermediate Period, the once mighty empire fragmented into a collection of regional powers. The high priests of Amun at Karnak wielded significant influence, often functioning as independent rulers. The most prominent among them, Harihar, went so far as to place his name in royal cartouches, effectively declaring himself king of southern Egypt. The decline of central authority allowed foreign influences to penetrate deeper into Egyptian society. Libyan military commanders established their own dynasties, and eventually, Nubian kings would conquer Egypt from the south, reversing the roles of vassals and overlords. This period of political fragmentation marked a profound transformation in Egyptian society, as the unified new kingdom gave way to a complex patchwork of competing powers. The story of Ramses II and his successors serves as a poignant reminder of the impermanence of power and the ever-shifting tides of history. While Ramses Titi's legacy endures through his monumental constructions and the first recorded peace treaty, the subsequent unraveling of his empire illustrates the delicate balance between power and stability. As Egypt transitioned into a new era, the lessons of the past continued to shape its destiny. As the 21st dynasty unfolded, the once unyielding authority of the Egyptian pharaohs gradually fragmented, giving rise to a new power center in the south. The high priests of Amun in Thebes emerged as formidable rulers, commanding their own military forces and governing the southern region with near total autonomy. This unique power-sharing arrangement marked a dramatic shift in Egyptian governance, as the high priests controlled vast temple estates and the treasury of Amun, wielding economic leverage that rivaled or even exceeded that of the northern pharaohs. The high priests operated almost independently, instituting their own dating systems, conducting foreign policy, and adopting royal titles, all while maintaining a semblance of loyalty to the distant Tanite kings. This period was remarkable for the shift in how power was conceived. Traditional pharaonic authority had always been rooted in divine kingship and centralized control. Now, Egypt operated more like a confederation of allied city-states than a unified kingdom. The concept of dual authority, balancing religious and secular power, represented a fundamental break with Egypt's past political ideology, altering the very fabric of Egyptian society. Despite the political fragmentation, Egyptian culture did not merely survive, it thrived, adapting to new realities rather than disappearing. The royal necropolis at Tanis, for instance, yielded extraordinary finds, including the tomb of Pharaoh Susnizai, a ruler of the 21st dynasty. Unlike the golden splendor of Tutankhamun's burial, Susni's was interred in an exquisite silver sarcophagus, a metal more precious than gold in ancient Egypt, due to its rarity. When archaeologist Pierre Montet discovered this tomb in 1939, the world was largely preoccupied with the outbreak of World War II, and the significance of this find went largely unnoticed. Nevertheless, the discovery underscored the resilience and continuity of Egyptian cultural practices, even amidst the chaos of political upheaval. Artists continued to innovate, and regional styles began to emerge in sculpture, architecture, and literary practices. This artistic evolution was not mere imitation, but a dynamic adaptation to the changing socio-political landscape at the time. Even as power shifted the essence of Egyptian culture, its art, religion, and traditions remained a constant, providing a sense of identity and continuity amidst the turbulence. The most profound transformation in this era came with the rise of Libyan military commanders, descendants of mercenaries who had settled in Egypt generations earlier. These leaders seized power and established the 22nd dynasty around 945 BCE. The dynasty's founder, Shashankai, managed to temporarily reunify Egypt under his command, launching military campaigns that extended beyond Egypt's borders, including an invasion of Judah and Israel. This event is recorded not only in Egyptian texts, but also in the Hebrew Bible as the sacking of Jerusalem by Shishak, king of Egypt. The Libyan pharaohs maintained Egyptian cultural traditions while introducing new practices, such as the distribution of power through a system of appointing family members to key military and religious positions. This created a network of loyal vassals and allowed for regional autonomy while maintaining central control. However, by the 8th century BCE, this system began to unravel, leading to further political fragmentation. The 22nd dynasty eventually fractured, with rival Libyan families establishing the competing 23rd dynasty. At times, Egypt had multiple pharaohs ruling simultaneously in different regions, each claiming legitimacy. Political marriages cemented temporary alliances, while betrayals and power shifts became commonplace. Royal succession followed no clear pattern, with brothers, sons, and even generals from outside the royal family claiming the throne. Throughout this political turmoil, everyday Egyptian life continued, albeit with a focus on regional trade networks, rather than the grand international commerce of the new kingdom. While Egypt's regional powers squabbled amongst themselves, a powerful force was gathering strength far to the south. The ancient kingdom of Kush was preparing to rewrite Egyptian history in the most unexpected way imaginable. Around 745 BCE, Kushite warriors crossed the border, not as simple invaders, but as self-proclaimed saviors of a civilization they deeply revered. The Kushite rulers of the 25th dynasty viewed their intervention not as a foreign conquest, but as a divine mission. King Pi, also called Pianki, the dynasty's founder, marched north with an army infused with religious purpose. His famous victory stela, discovered at Napata, reveals that his motivations went beyond mere territorial ambition. When confronting Egyptian nobles, he expressed horror at their ritual impurity and their neglect of sacred temples. Unlike previous conquerors who looted Egypt's treasures, Pi insisted on maintaining ritual purity throughout his campaign. Before entering Memphis, he purified himself with water from the sacred lake and made offerings to the gods, demonstrating his commitment to Egyptian religious traditions. The Kushite kings had absorbed Egyptian culture for centuries. Their administration used hieroglyphic writing, they built pyramids, and they worshipped Egyptian deities. Their royal burial grounds at El Kuru and Nuri reveal a profound commitment to Egyptian funerary practices, modified with distinct Nubian elements. When they conquered Egypt, they didn't need to learn its culture, they were already practicing it. Pi's son, Shabaka, consolidated Kushite control and moved the administrative center to Thebes. He demonstrated his commitment to Egyptian traditions by collecting and preserving ancient religious texts. The famous Shabaka stone contained what he claimed was a copy of a worm-eaten papyrus from antiquity, preserving creation myths attributed to the Memphite priests of the earliest dynasties. The most celebrated Kushite pharaoh, Taharqa, ruled during Egypt's brief resurgence as a regional power. His reign was marked by ambitious building projects throughout Egypt and Nubia. At Karnak, he constructed a magnificent colonnade with massive columns topped with papyrus capitals. At Kawa in Nubia, he built temples rivaling those in Egypt, demonstrating the cultural exchange between the two regions. The long-term effects of these dynastic changes left an indelible mark on Egyptian history, emphasizing the blend of Libyan, Egyptian, and Kushite influences in shaping the country's political and cultural landscape. These dynasties forged a legacy of resilience and adaptation, illustrating the dynamic interplay of power, culture, and identity in ancient Egypt. The lessons of this era echo through history, reminding us of the enduring strength and adaptability of Egyptian civilization through periods of foreign rule and political upheaval. The Kushite dynasty's reign over Egypt marked a period of significant cultural exchange and artistic transformation. During their rule, the Kushite pharaohs introduced distinct artistic elements that diverged from traditional Egyptian styles. One of the most notable contributions was the depiction of muscular royal figures with broad shoulders and strong facial features. These representations were a departure from the more stylized and formal portraiture that characterized earlier Egyptian art. The Kushites sought to infuse their own cultural identity into the artistic landscape of Egypt, blending elements of their Nubian heritage with the grandeur of Egyptian tradition. Under the Kushite rulers, Egyptian architecture experienced a revitalization that had not been seen since the times of Ramses the Great. The Kushites embarked on an ambitious building program, restoring neglected temples and reconstructing damaged monuments across the land. This effort was not merely an aesthetic endeavor. It was a political statement designed to assert the Kushite rulers as legitimate successors to the pharaohs of old and as custodians of Egyptian tradition. Their projects included the revival of artistic workshops, which allowed for the continuation and preservation of traditional Egyptian craftsmanship. The temples and monuments restored by the Kushites served as powerful symbols of their dedication to maintaining the sacred and cultural heritage of Egypt. These structures, adorned with intricate carvings and vibrant murals, not only celebrated the divine, but also reinforced the Kushite pharaohs' commitment to preserving the religious and artistic practices that defined Egyptian civilization. The Kushite dynasty's building and artistic programs were deeply intertwined with their political strategy. By restoring and constructing monumental architecture, the Kushite rulers sought to establish themselves as the rightful heirs to the Egyptian throne. This approach was particularly significant in a time when the legitimacy of foreign rulers was often questioned. The Kushites' emphasis on architecture and art as tools of political power reflected their understanding of the importance of cultural preservation in legitimizing their rule by positioning themselves as protectors of Egyptian tradition. The Kushites aimed to gain the support of the Egyptian populace and solidify their authority over the region. Religion played a central role in the Kushite political strategy. As pharaohs, they embraced the religious practices of Egypt and aligned themselves with the pantheon of gods revered by the Egyptians. This religious alignment was crucial in establishing their credibility and fostering a sense of continuity with the past. Despite their efforts to integrate into Egyptian society, the Kushites faced significant challenges to their rule. The rising power of the Assyrian Empire posed a formidable threat to the Kushite dynasty's control over Egypt. The Assyrians, known for their military prowess and expansionist ambitions, viewed Egypt as a prize worth conquering. The Assyrian Empire, under the leadership of kings such as Sennacherib and Ashurbanipal, embarked on a series of military campaigns aimed at expanding their dominion over the Near East. Their attention soon turned towards Egypt, a land rich in resources and strategic importance. The Assyrian campaigns against the Kushite controlled Egypt were characterized by their ruthless efficiency and military innovation. The Assyrians employed iron weapons, advanced siege engines, and brutal tactics to achieve their objectives. Their approach to warfare was designed to instill fear and break the will of their enemies before battles even commenced. In 6071 BCE, the Assyrian king Esarhaddon's forces launched a successful campaign against Egypt, sacking the city of Memphis and driving the Kushite ruler Taharqa southward. Despite Taharqa's attempts to recapture Lower Egypt, subsequent Assyrian campaigns eventually forced the Kushites to retreat to their Nubian homeland. The Assyrian victories in Egypt were not merely military triumphs. They were psychological blows that challenged the perception of Egypt as a land divinely protected from foreign conquest. The Assyrians implemented a strategy of fragmentation dividing northern Egypt into smaller administrative units, overseen by local rulers loyal to Assyria. This approach prevented unified resistance and allowed the Assyrians to extract wealth through tribute and taxes. Despite the challenges posed by the Assyrian invasions, the Kushite dynasty's reverence for Egyptian traditions played a crucial role in preserving the cultural and religious heritage of the region. Their commitment to maintaining the sacred texts and artistic practices of Egypt ensured that these vital elements of Egyptian identity were not lost amidst the turmoil of foreign domination. The Kushite rulers' efforts to preserve Egyptian culture were particularly significant during times of conflict and upheaval. Their dedication to religious practices and artistic traditions provided a sense of continuity and stability in an era marked by uncertainty and change. The preservation of Egyptian culture under Kushite rule served as a testament to the resilience of the civilization and its ability to withstand external pressures while maintaining its core identity. The Kushite dynasty's legacy in Egypt extended beyond their brief period of control. Their role as custodians of Egyptian tradition ensured that the cultural and religious practices of the region would endure, even as the political landscape shifted. The defeat of the Kushite dynasty at the hands of the Assyrians marked the end of their rule over Egypt. The catastrophic sack of Thebes in 663 BCE, carried out by Ashurbanipal's forces, effectively ended Kushite power in the region and forced them to retreat permanently to their Nubian homeland. In the aftermath of the Assyrian victories, Ashurbanipal installed Psamtik I as ruler in Sais, initially a loyal Assyrian vassal. Psamtik would ultimately capitalize on Assyria's growing challenges elsewhere to reassert Egyptian independence. Through diplomatic marriages, strategic alliances with mercenary forces, particularly Greek soldiers, and patient political maneuvering, Psamtik managed to gradually reunify Egypt and establish the 26th dynasty, the last significant native Egyptian royal house. The Assyrian period left lasting imprints on Egyptian society. Their bureaucratic practices influenced Egyptian administrative systems, with scribes beginning to incorporate elements of Mesopotamian record-keeping. Egyptian art from this period also shows subtle Assyrian influences, particularly in royal imagery and battle scenes. The military was permanently transformed by the incorporation of foreign mercenaries, including Greeks and Carians, who would remain a fixture in Egyptian armies for centuries to come. Despite the devastation wrought by the Assyrian conquest, the resilience of Egyptian institutions allowed for cultural continuity even after such a traumatic event. Archaeological evidence from Thebes indicates that, though damaged, many temples continued to function and rebuilding efforts began relatively quickly. The psychological impact of the Assyrian conquest was profound. No longer could Egyptians believe that their land was divinely protected from foreign invasion. However, from the ashes of foreign domination emerged an Egypt determined to reclaim its identity through a fascinating contradiction, embracing innovation while obsessively recreating its ancient past. The ruins of Thebes would give way to something unexpected, a cultural rebirth that borrowed equally from Egypt's golden age and the new international world order. Psamtik I, once an Assyrian puppet, transformed himself into Egypt's savior. After securing control of the Delta region around 664 BCE, he gradually expanded southward, ultimately reunifying the fractured nation. His masterstroke came through diplomacy rather than conquest. Psamtik's strategic use of diplomatic marriages and alliances allowed him to strengthen Egypt's position and secure its independence. His policies set the stage for a period of stability and cultural renaissance that would characterize the 26th dynasty. The legacy of Psamtik I in the 26th dynasty was one of resilience and cultural rebirth. By embracing both the ancient traditions of Egypt and the new influences brought by foreign powers, Egypt managed to navigate the challenges of its time and emerge as a revitalized civilization with a renewed sense of identity. In conclusion, the era of Kushite rule and the subsequent Assyrian conquest were pivotal moments in Egyptian history. They demonstrated the enduring strength and adaptability of Egyptian civilization in the face of external challenges. The lessons of this period continue to resonate, reminding us of the timeless power of cultural preservation and renewal in shaping the destiny of a nation. The 26th dynasty rulers of Egypt, known as the Saite dynasty, spearheaded a profound cultural revival that historians often refer to as the Saite Renaissance, named after their capital at Sais. This renaissance was not a mere political restoration, but a deliberate cultural revival aimed at rekindling the glory of Egypt's golden age. Palace artisans delved into ancient tomb reliefs, painstakingly replicating their styles with astonishing precision. Scribes embarked on the laborious task of recovering ancient texts and religious formulas, ensuring that the wisdom of the past was not lost to time. The architectural landscape of Egypt under the Saite dynasty was a testament to this revival. New temple structures echoed the proportions and layouts of the Old Kingdom, creating an illusion of timeless continuity even as the world around Egypt transformed. This cultural nostalgia was not solely for aesthetic purposes, it was strategic. By positioning themselves as the legitimate heirs to Egypt's illustrious past, the Saite pharaohs bolstered their claim to rule a nation that had endured centuries of foreign domination. They crafted what scholars describe as a resurrection environment, where temples became sanctuaries preserving ancient traditions against an uncertain future. The influence of ancient Egyptian art extended far beyond its time, leaving an indelible mark on modern interpretations. From the grandeur of the pyramids to the intricate hieroglyphics, the art of ancient Egypt continues to captivate people around the world. The resurgence of traditional religious practices during the Saite Renaissance highlighted the importance of cultural identity in times of change. This deliberate revival draws parallels with other cultural renaissances throughout history, where societies seek to reclaim and celebrate their heritage. Paradoxically, the Saite Renaissance coincided with Egypt's most internationally connected era. Greek mercenaries and traders established permanent settlements, particularly in the western delta at Naucratis, granted special status by Pharaoh Ramses II around 570 BCE. Naucratis became a bustling commercial hub where Mediterranean merchants exchanged olive oil and wine for Egyptian grain and papyrus. Archaeological excavations have unearthed thousands of Greek pottery fragments alongside Egyptian artifacts, revealing a vibrant cultural exchange. The 26th dynasty's military relied heavily on these foreign soldiers, particularly the Greeks, whom the Egyptians referred to as the bronzemen. These mercenaries received land grants, established families, and gradually integrated into Egyptian society. Some even adopted Egyptian religious practices, dedicating statues and stelae in a fascinating hybrid artistic style that combined Greek proportions with Egyptian iconography. This period of cultural assimilation and exchange left a lasting impact on both Greek and Egyptian societies. Trade facilitated the blending of artistic styles, leading to the evolution of hybrid forms that reflected the interconnectedness of the ancient world. The role of Greek mercenaries in Egyptian military strategy illustrates the complex dynamics of cultural and military alliances. The geopolitical landscape of the 26th dynasty was marked by a delicate balance of military reliance on foreign soldiers and astute diplomatic maneuvers. Pharaoh Ramses soon navigated the treacherous waters of international politics with remarkable skill, forming alliances with Greek city-states and the Lydian king Croesus to counter the expansion of the Persian Empire. His foreign policy kept Egypt prosperous and independent for over 4 decades, a testament to the importance of strategic alliances in maintaining sovereignty. The significance of military innovation and strategy in ancient Egypt cannot be overstated. The reliance on foreign soldiers, particularly Greek mercenaries, highlights the pragmatic approach of the Saite rulers in addressing their military needs. These alliances not only bolstered Egypt's defense, but also facilitated cultural exchange, as the integration of foreign elements into the Egyptian military contributed to the rich tapestry of Egyptian society. The emergence of the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great dramatically altered the balance of power in the ancient world. In 525 BCE, Persian king Cambyses Syria invaded Egypt, defeating Pharaoh Samti-Cathu at the Battle of Pelusium. Egyptian sources claim that Cambyses employed psychological warfare, placing cats, sacred animals to Egyptians, in front of his army. Knowing that Egyptian soldiers would hesitate to harm these revered creatures, Cambyses gained a critical advantage in the battle. While the story of Cambyses's psychological tactics may be exaggerated, it underscores the cultural clash between Egyptian religious sensibilities and foreign pragmatism. The Persian conquest established the 27th dynasty, marking the first entirely foreign ruling house in Egypt. Though Egyptian administration largely continued under Persian oversight, the symbolic wound of foreign domination was profound. The impact of psychological warfare in ancient conflicts illustrates the use of non-traditional tactics to gain an advantage. The role of animals in warfare, as seen in the story of Cambyses, highlights the cultural significance of animals in both Egyptian and Persian societies. The broader implications of cultural clashes in conquest scenarios reveal the complexities of power dynamics in ancient empires. Upon conquering Egypt, Cambyses did not simply impose Persian customs. Instead, he adopted traditional Egyptian royal titles and imagery, establishing himself as a legitimate pharaoh, while simultaneously serving as a Persian ruler. This pragmatic approach created a unique cultural framework where the 27th dynasty ruled through familiar structures. The Persians understood that controlling Egypt required more than military might. It required cultural legitimacy that resonated with the local population. The administrative transformation under Persian rule was comprehensive, with Egypt becoming a satrapy integrated into the larger provincial system of the Achaemenid Empire. The Persians implemented a sophisticated bureaucracy, employing both Persian officials and Egyptian administrators in collaboration. Despite following Zoroastrianism personally, Persian kings demonstrated remarkable political savvy in their religious policies. They participated in Egyptian religious ceremonies, made donations to temples, and commissioned art showing themselves performing traditional rituals for Egyptian deities. King Darius I even ordered the codification of Egyptian laws, positioning himself as a protector of Egyptian traditions while ensuring Persian dominance remained unchallenged. This cultural accommodation and administrative integration highlight the effectiveness of using cultural frameworks to maintain control over conquered territories. The evolution of bureaucracy in ancient empires reflects the complexities of managing diverse populations. The long-term effects of Persian rule on Egyptian society reveal the enduring impact of foreign influence on cultural development. Beneath the veneer of cultural accommodation, Persian rule brought unprecedented taxation and resource extraction to Egypt. The Egyptians faced heavy financial burdens as Persian authorities demanded regular tribute in the form of gold, grain, and other commodities. This exploitation, combined with the psychological weight of foreign rule, sparked numerous resistance movements among the native population. Economic factors played a significant role in driving resistance movements throughout history. The heavy taxation imposed by Persian rulers contributed to the growing discontent among Egyptians, leading to periodic independence under native dynasties. However, each restoration became shorter than the last, culminating in the final native pharaoh, Nectanebo, who, fleeing to Nubia in 343 BCE as Persian forces retook Egypt for the final time. The role of taxation in ancient economies highlights the delicate balance between resource extraction and maintaining social stability. Comparisons with other periods of foreign domination in Egypt reveal patterns of resistance and adaptation in response to external pressures. The legacy of the 26 dynasties' cultural revival and the subsequent Persian influence on Egyptian civilization is profound. The Saite Renaissance's deliberate revival of ancient traditions reshaped the historical narrative of Egypt, contributing to its enduring identity. The Persian period, despite its challenges, left an indelible mark on Egyptian society, influencing its administrative structures and cultural practices. The legacy of cultural revivals in shaping national identity is a recurring theme in history. The Saite dynasty's efforts to reconnect with Egypt's golden age resonate with modern interpretations of cultural heritage. The influence of foreign rule on cultural development highlights the complexities of identity formation in a globalized world. In conclusion, the Saite Renaissance and subsequent Persian rule were pivotal periods in Egyptian history. They demonstrated the resilience and adaptability of Egyptian civilization in the face of external challenges. The lasting impact of these periods continues to shape our understanding of Egypt's rich cultural legacy, reminding us of the timeless power of cultural preservation and renewal in shaping the destiny of a nation. The revolt led by Inaros Tuer in the 460s BCE stands as a poignant chapter in Egypt's long history of resistance against foreign domination. Inaros, a Libyan prince with a claim to Egyptian heritage, united various factions under the banner of independence. His movement was not just a military endeavor, but a profound expression of Egyptian identity, seeking to revive the ancient glory overshadowed by Persian rule. For a brief moment, Inaros tasted victory. His forces managed to reclaim significant territories, including the strategic city of Memphis, disrupting Persian control. Yet, despite these successes, the revolt was eventually quashed by the might of the Persian military, assisted by Greek mercenaries. The suppression of Inaros' rebellion was brutal, with the prince himself facing execution. The aftermath left a deep scar on the Egyptian psyche, reinforcing the harsh reality of Persian dominance. However, the memory of Inaros' audacious bid for freedom lingered, fueling the flame of independence that would ignite once more in the years to come. The Egyptian dream of sovereignty finally found fertile ground in 404 BCE. Amidst the chaos of internal strife within the Persian Empire, native leaders seized the opportunity to re-establish control. The 28th through 30th dynasties marked a renaissance of Egyptian rule, a period characterized by cultural and political rejuvenation. Pharaohs like Nectanebo emerged as champions of this revival. They embarked on ambitious projects to restore Egypt's ancient traditions, investing heavily in the construction of temples and monuments. These structures stood as symbols of national pride and resilience, a deliberate attempt to erase the memory of Persian conquest. Nectanebo's reign epitomized this era of Renaissance. Under his leadership, Egypt fortified its defenses and reinforced its cultural identity. The pharaohs of these dynasties understood the importance of both military strength and cultural unity in safeguarding Egypt's future. Yet, this period of native rule was ephemeral, lasting merely 60 years. The spectre of foreign invasion loomed large, reminding the Egyptians of the precarious nature of their newfound independence. The year 343 BCE heralded a grim chapter in Egypt's history, as the Persian Empire, under Artaxerxes III, launched a campaign to reclaim its wayward province. This second Persian conquest was marked by a stark departure from previous approaches, characterized by unyielding repression and systematic exploitation. Persian forces unleashed a wave of destruction upon Egypt. Temples, once revered as sanctuaries of the divine, were desecrated and looted, their treasures confiscated to fuel the empire's coffers. Financial penalties crippled the economy, while defensive structures were dismantled, leaving the nation vulnerable. The Egyptian priesthood, once allies of the Persians, found themselves targets of persecution. Their authority was undermined, and their resources were pillaged, deepening the chasm of resentment between the conquerors and the subjugated. This oppressive rule only served to exacerbate the instability within the Persian Empire, sowing seeds of discord that would soon bear fruit. The arrival of Alexander the Great in 332 BCE marked a turning point in Egyptian history. His invasion was met not with resistance, but with open arms, as many Egyptians viewed him as a liberator from Persian tyranny. The priests at the Siwa-Osis oracle proclaimed Alexander a son of Ammon, bestowing upon him divine legitimacy. This endorsement transformed Alexander from a mere conqueror to a divinely sanctioned ruler, etching his place in the annals of Egyptian law. Alexander's vision extended beyond mere conquest. In 331 BCE, he established the city of Alexandria, a testament to his ambition and foresight. Situated strategically between Lake Mariot and the Mediterranean Sea, Alexandria was designed by the legendary architect Dinocrates. The city's layout followed a Hellenistic grid pattern, featuring wide boulevards and distinct quarters for various ethnic groups. Alexandria swiftly emerged as a beacon of cultural fusion, embodying Alexander's philosophy of uniting Eastern and Western traditions. The city became a melting pot of Greek, Egyptian, and Jewish influences, setting the stage for a vibrant multicultural metropolis. Alexander's rule in Egypt was characterized by a delicate balancing act of cultural integration and administrative reform. He appointed Cleomenes of Naucratis, a Greek, as financial administrator, while retaining Egyptian officials in local positions. This synthesis of Macedonian efficiency and Egyptian bureaucratic traditions ensured effective governance and minimized cultural friction. Alexander's religious tolerance further endeared him to the Egyptian populace. He participated in traditional ceremonies and made offerings at temples, demonstrating respect for local customs. This cultural code, switching where he embodied both Macedonian and Egyptian identities, allowed him to maintain authority across diverse communities. The death of Alexander in 323 BCE plunged his vast empire into turmoil as his generals, known as the Diadochi, vied for control. Ptolemy I, one of Alexander's closest confidants, emerged as a formidable contender in Egypt. In a bold move, Ptolemy hijacked Alexander's funeral cortege, bringing the embalmed body to Egypt. This act not only legitimized his claim, but also symbolized the continuity of Alexander's legacy. By 305 BCE, Ptolemy declared himself king, founding the Ptolemaic dynasty that would dominate Egypt for nearly 3 centuries. Under Ptolemy's descendants, Alexandria flourished as the intellectual and commercial heart of the Hellenistic world. The city boasted marvels such as the lighthouse of Pharaohs and the Great Library, attracting scholars and thinkers from across the globe. Alexandria's reputation as a center of knowledge was unparalleled. The Great Library, with its vast collection of scrolls, aimed to gather all the world's wisdom under one roof. The Museum, an institute of learning, fostered innovation and discovery, drawing luminaries like Euclid, Archimedes, and Eratosthenes. These achievements underscored Alexandria's role as a crucible of intellectual and cultural exchange, influencing the broader Hellenistic world. Beneath the veneer of cultural achievement, the Ptolemaic royal family was embroiled in a web of intrigue. Publicly adopting Egyptian customs, the Greek monarchs engaged in private power struggles, weaving a tapestry of deception and betrayal. These internal dynamics, characterized by complex familial alliances and rivalries, shaped the dynasty's legacy. Despite the Ptolemies' efforts to maintain control, the seeds of decline were sown, foreshadowing the eventual fall of the dynasty. As the sun set on Ptolemaic Egypt, its legacy endured, a testament to the enduring spirit of a civilization that continually adapted and transformed in the face of adversity. The echoes of this era resonate through history, reminding us of the indomitable resilience and creativity that define the Egyptian experience. This chapter of Egypt's story, marked by conquest, cultural fusion, and intellectual flourishing, underscores the timeless power of adaptation and renewal in shaping a nation's destiny. The Ptolemaic dynasty, founded by Ptolemy I after the death of Alexander the Great, was a testament to the art of cultural synthesis. Ptolemy I and his successors crafted a hybrid cultural system that wove together Greek and Egyptian elements, creating a unique blend that dominated the Mediterranean for centuries. This was not merely a political strategy, but an immersive cultural transformation. The rulers of this dynasty were adept cultural chameleons, presenting themselves as legitimate pharaohs to their Egyptian subjects, while maintaining their Greek identity among fellow Hellenes. They funded massive temple complexes throughout Egypt, such as the Grand Temple of Horus at Edfu and the Temple of Hathor at Dendera. These sites became the physical embodiments of this cultural fusion, with traditional Egyptian religious iconography flourishing alongside subtle Greek influences and architectural details. The grandeur of these temples was not only a testament to religious devotion, but also a demonstration of the Ptolemies' commitment to integrating Greek and Egyptian cultures. The Ptolemies understood that religion was a powerful tool for cultural integration. By adopting the role of pharaohs, they were able to position themselves within the ancient religious traditions of Egypt. This was a delicate balance, as they needed to maintain their Hellenic roots while also embracing the pharaonic traditions that legitimized their rule in the eyes of their Egyptian subjects. The architectural innovations of the temples at Edfu and Dendera, among others, were a testament to this synthesis, where Greek styles were subtly woven into the traditional Egyptian designs. This blending was not confined to architecture alone. It permeated the religious practices as well, with the introduction of hybrid deities that appealed to both Greek and Egyptian worshippers. One of the most shocking aspects of the Ptolemaic dynasty was their adoption of sibling marriage. This practice, rooted in ancient Egyptian royal tradition, was previously unthinkable in Greek culture. It began with Ptolemy II, who married his full sister Arsinoe II, setting a precedent that would be followed by subsequent generations of Ptolemaic rulers. The ostensible reason for these unions was the preservation of royal blood purity. However, far from strengthening the dynasty, these marriages often produced rulers with unstable temperaments and genetic disorders. The practice of sibling marriage among the Ptolemies was intended to consolidate power and maintain the purity of the royal line. Yet, the genetic implications of such unions were profound. Over generations, the dynasties suffered from physical and mental ailments that exacerbated the instability of their rule. The volatile nature of these rulers contributed to the palace conspiracies and familial violence that became a hallmark of Ptolemaic court life. Sibling marriage was not unique to the Ptolemies. Similar practices were observed in other royal families, such as the ancient Incas and the Hawaiian monarchy. However, the societal reactions varied. In Egypt, where the tradition was long-standing, it was accepted as a norm, whereas the Greeks viewed it as an aberration. Court life in Ptolemaic Alexandria was characterized by breathtaking brutality and intrigue. The family dynamics within the dynasty were fraught with conspiracies, betrayals, and violence. Mothers plotted against sons, brothers assassinated brothers, and wives eliminated husbands with calculated precision. One of the most notorious rulers, Ptolemy IV, had his mother, Berenice, murdered. Later, Ptolemy Vicin celebrated his return to power by dismembering his nephew and sending the pieces to his sister, wife, Cleopatra II, as a gruesome birthday gift. These acts of violence were not aberrations, but rather typical of the dynasty's internal politics. The psychological profiles of key figures within the dynasty reveal a pattern of paranoia, ambition, and ruthlessness. These traits were not unique to the Ptolemies. Comparisons can be drawn with other historical dynasties, such as the Roman Caesars and the Ottoman sultans, where internal strife and familial betrayals were commonplace. The societal impact of these royal conspiracies was significant, leading to periods of instability and unrest. The populace often bore the brunt of these power struggles, as economic and social conditions deteriorated under volatile leadership. Despite the dysfunction within the royal family, the Ptolemies transformed Alexandria into an intellectual powerhouse unmatched in the ancient world. The great library of Alexandria became a beacon of knowledge and learning, attracting scholars, mathematicians, and poets from across the Mediterranean. Ptolemaic rulers aggressively expanded the library's collection through innovative acquisition tactics. Ships entering Alexandria's harbor were required to surrender any books for copying, with only the copies returned to their owners. This practice ensured that the library's collection grew exponentially, encompassing works from various cultures and fields of study. The library attracted some of the greatest minds of the time. Eratosthenes, for example, accurately calculated Earth's circumference, while Euclid's Elements laid the foundations of geometry for 2 millennia. Poets like Callimachus and Theocritus flourished under Ptolemaic patronage, crafting new literary forms that would influence Roman authors for generations. The intellectual renaissance in Alexandria was not just about the accumulation of knowledge. It represented a cross-cultural exchange of ideas that enriched both Greek and Egyptian traditions. The Ptolemies' support of scholars and artists facilitated the blending of different intellectual traditions, creating a vibrant and dynamic cultural hub that had a lasting impact on global knowledge. The stability of the Ptolemaic dynasty began to crumble as Rome's influence grew across the Mediterranean. A significant turning point came in 168 BCE, when a Roman diplomat, Gaius Popilius Laenas, famously drew a circle in the sand around Ptolemy VC, demanding that he withdraw from Cyprus before stepping out of the circle. This humiliating capitulation marked the beginning of Egypt's declining sovereignty and increasing Roman intervention in Egyptian affairs. The Rosetta Stone, created during Ptolemy V's reign, provides ironic testimony to the dynasty's fading power. While it celebrated the pharaoh's supposed achievements, the trilingual inscription actually documented concessions to rebellious priests and tax exemptions granted to quell unrest. This stone, later vital for deciphering hieroglyphics, reveals how much the Ptolemies struggled to maintain control over their increasingly fractious kingdom. By the dynasty's final century, Roman intervention in Egyptian affairs became commonplace. In 58 BCE, Ptolemy Xer traveled to Rome to secure loans from Crassus and Pompey, mortgaging Egypt's finances to maintain his throne. His daughter, the famous Cleopatra Vassu, would later stake everything on alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony in a desperate attempt to preserve Egypt's independence from Rome. Unlike her ancestors who relied on spectacle and intimidation, Cleopatra Thoi deployed a different approach. She combined intellectual brilliance with political cunning, nearly saving Egypt from Roman domination. Born in 69 BCE into a dynasty plagued by betrayal and violence, Cleopatra received an education that far surpassed that of her predecessors. She mastered Greek philosophy, rhetoric, and mathematics while studying at Alexandria's intellectual centers. What truly distinguished her, however, was her linguistic talent. She spoke 9 languages fluently, allowing her to communicate directly with foreign diplomats without translators and, most significantly, to speak with native Egyptians in their own tongue. This was something no previous Ptolemaic ruler had bothered to do in nearly 3 centuries of rule. Cleopatra's path to power was neither simple nor assured. After the death of her father, Ptolemaic II, in 51 BCE, she was forced to co-rule with her younger brother, Ptolemaic II. Their relationship deteriorated rapidly, culminating in civil war when Cleopatra was driven from Alexandria. Her return to power came through a legendary encounter with Julius Caesar, who arrived in Egypt pursuing his rival Pompey. Rather than simply pleading for Roman intervention, Cleopatra boldly smuggled herself into Caesar's quarters wrapped in a carpet, demonstrating the theatrical flair and political daring that would become her hallmark. Caesar restored Cleopatra to her throne and fathered her son, Caesarion, providing her with a powerful connection to Rome. But this was far more than a romance. It was a calculated political alliance. Cleopatra needed Roman military support to secure her rule, while Caesar gained access to Egypt's vast grain supplies and wealth. When Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE, Cleopatra quickly aligned herself with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals and a member of the Second Triumvirate ruling Rome. Their relationship evolved into both a political and personal partnership. In 41 BCE, Cleopatra hosted Antony in Alexandria, dazzling him with extravagant banquets that displayed Egypt's opulence and her own political acumen. As the shadow of Rome continued to loom over Egypt, Cleopatra's strategies were a final effort to maintain her nation's sovereignty. Her intelligence, charisma, and political savvy made her a formidable ruler. yet the forces arrayed against her were immense. The Ptolemaic dynasty's final chapter was marked by her attempts to outmaneuver Rome, a testament to her indomitable spirit and the enduring legacy of a dynasty that had once bridged two worlds. The union between Cleopatra and Mark Antony was not just a romance of legendary proportions, but a calculated political alliance with far-reaching implications. Cleopatra, ever the astute politician, understood the necessity of securing her position and Egypt's prosperity amidst the tumultuous Roman political landscape. Antony, in turn, was drawn to Cleopatra not only by her famed beauty, but also by her political acumen and the wealth she controlled. Through their alliance, Cleopatra received grants of territories, including Cyprus, parts of Cilicia, Phoenicia, and regions of Syria. These were not mere tokens of affection, but strategic assets that bolstered Egypt's power. By controlling these regions, Cleopatra could secure vital trade routes and resources, thus enhancing Egypt's economic strength and her own political leverage. However, these concessions did not go unnoticed in Rome. Octavian, Antony's rival and Julius Caesar's adopted son, perceived the alliance as a direct threat to his ambitions. The grants not only augmented Cleopatra's influence, but also signaled a shift in power dynamics that could challenge Rome's supremacy. This alliance, while strengthening Egypt, simultaneously sowed the seeds of its downfall by alarming Rome and setting the stage for conflict. Octavian, a master of political propaganda, seized the opportunity to turn public opinion against Antony and Cleopatra. He portrayed Antony as a Roman general ensnared by the exotic charms of a foreign queen. This narrative of Antony abandoning his Roman virtues for a life of indulgence in the East was meticulously crafted to vilify Cleopatra and frame her as the seductress who threatened Rome's stability. Cleopatra was cast in the role of the dangerous Oriental temptress, a stereotype that persisted for centuries, overshadowing her significant political and strategic skills. Roman propaganda depicted her as a woman who wielded her allure to manipulate powerful men, thus distorting her image and diminishing her accomplishments in the historical record. Archaeological evidence, however, paints a different picture. Coins minted during her reign depict Cleopatra with strong, distinctive features, a testament to her leadership and determination. These coins offer a glimpse into how she perceived herself and wished to be perceived by her subjects, in stark contrast to the idealized beauty crafted by later Roman and modern narratives. The escalating tensions between Octavian and Antony culminated in the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. This naval confrontation was decisive, with Octavian's forces, expertly commanded by Agrippa, securing a resounding victory over the combined fleets of Antony and Cleopatra. The defeat at Actium marked the beginning of the end for Antony and Cleopatra. Their forces decimated, they retreated to Alexandria, their hopes of reclaiming power dwindling as Octavian's forces closed in. In a tragic turn, Antony, deceived by false reports of Cleopatra's death, chose to end his life by falling on his sword. Cleopatra, faced with the prospect of being paraded through Rome as a captive, chose a different fate. According to Roman accounts, she orchestrated her own death by facilitating the smuggling of poisonous asps in a basket of figs. This act of defiance was Cleopatra's final assertion of agency, ensuring that she would not be subjected to the humiliation of a Roman triumph. Her death at the age of 39 marked not only the end of her reign, but also the demise of Egypt as an independent power. With Cleopatra's passing, the Ptolemaic dynasty, and indeed Egypt's long history of pharaonic rule, came to an irrevocable close. With Cleopatra and Antony defeated, Octavian returned to Rome as the unchallenged ruler of the Roman world. He assumed the title of Augustus, marking the transition from the Roman Republic to the Roman Empire. Egypt, with its vast wealth and resources, was too significant to be left to the whims of the Senate. Augustus claimed Egypt as his personal domain, setting a precedent for future emperors. This ensured that the province, vital for its grain supplies, remained under direct imperial control. The first Roman prefect, Cornelius Gallus, was tasked with securing Egypt's subjugation and integration into the empire. He methodically dismantled any lingering resistance and established Roman dominance, even as he adopted Egyptian symbols and hieroglyphs to commemorate his achievements. Egypt's strategic importance was underscored by its role as a major supplier of grain to Rome. The province's agricultural output was crucial, with over 150,000 tons of grain annually transported to the imperial capital. This economic lifeline was so vital that Augustus created a specialized military unit to protect the grain shipments, recognizing that control over Egypt's resources equated to control over Rome itself. Despite the political upheaval, Alexandria remained a beacon of cultural and intellectual exchange in the ancient world. The city, a melting pot of Greek, Roman, and Egyptian traditions, continued to thrive as a center of learning and innovation. Its famed library attracted scholars from across the Mediterranean, fostering an environment where diverse ideas could intersect and flourish. In Alexandria, Greek philosophers engaged in debates with Jewish theologians, while Egyptian priests preserved ancient traditions in the face of changing linguistic and cultural landscapes. The cosmopolitan society of Alexandria exemplified the cultural syncretism that characterized the Hellenistic world, even as Roman influence began to permeate. The interactions between different religious and philosophical traditions enriched Alexandria's intellectual life, making it a unique hub of creativity and discourse. However, the gradual shift towards Christianity, coupled with the decline of traditional practices, signaled a transformation in the city's cultural fabric. Under Roman rule, the religious landscape of Egypt underwent significant changes. While traditional Egyptian practices persisted in some areas, the spread of Christianity gradually eroded the old beliefs. The construction of temples continued under early Roman emperors, yet by the late 4th century CE, pagan worship was officially banned by Emperor Theodosius. Many temples fell into disuse, their significance fading as the new religion took hold. The Temple of Isis at Philae, the last bastion of ancient Egyptian religion, continued to function until it was closed by order of Emperor Justinian in 537 CE. This marked the end of an era, as the ancient religious practices that had defined Egypt for millennia gave way to the new Christian order. The adaptation of Roman emperors to Egyptian religious iconography, while initially seeming to pay homage to local traditions, ultimately served to undermine them, paving the way for the dominance of Christianity. Rome's control over Egypt was marked by both administrative efficiency and economic exploitation. The province was meticulously organized into administrative districts, each subject to rigorous census records and tax assessments. The imposition of heavy tax burdens on Egyptian farmers led to widespread discontent, with some villages abandoned in protest of Roman tax collectors. Egypt was viewed primarily as a resource to be exploited, with little regard for cultural preservation beyond what served imperial interests. The Roman economic policies, while enhancing productivity and maximizing resource extraction, also contributed to social unrest and a sense of cultural erosion among the Egyptian populace. Despite the trials of Roman rule, Egypt's legacy of resilience and adaptation endured. For over 3,000 years, Egypt had absorbed and integrated various cultures while maintaining a distinct identity. This ability to adapt without losing its essence was key to its long-standing influence in the Mediterranean world. The story of Egypt under Roman rule is one of transformation, yet it also speaks to the enduring strength of a civilization that has left an indelible mark on history. As Egypt transitioned from the era of the Pharaohs to a province within the Roman Empire, it continued to adapt and evolve, reflecting the resilience that has characterized its legacy through the ages.